Sun Woo is a former Special Forces soldier who has returned to college after completing his national service. His ordinary life as a student is shattered during class one day when he and his fellow students are faced with a mysterious prompt asking them to select a role. And he chose the top class Necromancer, a rare ability that grants him the power to control the undead. With the campus and outside world seemingly on the brink of collapse, Sun Woo must use his newfound powers to battle fearsome monsters and help save his fellow students. But will they make out alive? Let's see what happens. The story kicks off during rush hour, with people hustling through their busy lives. It's a chaotic morning, crowds pushing into jam-packed buses, students shoving one another just to squeeze in, and everything feels out of control. Eventually, a bus stops in front of a college, and a young man steps out. He looks drained, worn out, and questions how he ever survived this madness back in his first year. His name is Sun Woo, the main character of the story. Just then, his friend Han-ho Lee hears him grumbling and teases him, asking if he really served in the Special Forces, because he can't even handle a hectic commute. Sun Woo claps back, mocking Han-ho for not even completing his mandatory military training. The two banter back and forth as they walk toward class. Suddenly, Han-ho halts and points to the sky. There's a strange loading screen floating above, stuck at 99%. But Sun Woo, with his poor eyesight, doesn't notice anything. Instead, he mocks Han-ho again, suggesting he's still sulking over his girlfriend. Han-ho insists he saw something, but Sun Woo brushes it off, assuming his friend has played too many video games and now can't tell fiction from reality. He lightly slaps him to snap out of it and tells him to hurry. They can't afford to be late. The two eventually split and head to their respective classrooms. Once in class, Sun Woo struggles to stay awake. He regrets not grabbing coffee, but this drowsiness feels different. It's not just sleepiness. Out of nowhere, a massive screen pops up in front of his eyes, displaying a bizarre question. Which class will offer the best chance of survival in an apocalyptic world? Beneath that is a prompt asking him to choose a class. Confused, he rubs his eyes, trying to confirm whether he's dreaming. Suddenly, the power cuts out. It's broad daylight, yet no one can see a thing. On top of that, none of their electronic devices are working. Panic spreads throughout the classroom. One by one, the students start seeing the same glowing screen he saw. Everyone's equally stunned, unsure if they're seeing a hologram or hallucinating. But Sun Woo can tell something's seriously off. A countdown now appears on his screen, along with a series of floating cards, each with images and star ratings. As the cards hover before the students, no one dares touch them, too unsure of what's going on. But Sun Woo thinks differently. He believes not choosing a card could be far more dangerous, especially since they have no idea what's coming once the countdown ends. Only 15 seconds left. As the timer keeps ticking, Sun Woo stares at the cards in a full-blown panic. He has no idea what to choose, but there's no time left to waste. Suddenly, he catches a flash. One of the students has picked a card. Out of nowhere, a massive sword crashes down right in front of that student, and the card he selected vanishes. Realizing he has to decide quickly, Sun Woo begins to think. What class would give him the highest chance of survival in a world that's clearly gone apocalyptic? Every card has a different star rating, and in a rush, he grabs the one with the most stars, the Necromancer class. Yep, the man is basically about to become Sung Jin Woo from Solo Leveling. A few seconds later, the class selection ends and all the screens disappear. The classroom seems back to normal, but the nerdy student still has that giant sword. Everyone stares at it, completely confused. The guy explains that it dropped when he picked the warrior class. Hearing this, Sun Woo wonders if he's really become a necromancer, because honestly, nothing feels different yet. Then, chaos. One of the students suddenly gets stabbed by a sneaky little goblin. He screams, begging for help, but everyone just stares in shock as the goblin keeps stabbing, over and over, until he dies right there. After the kill, the goblin turns and locks eyes with the rest of the students, and that's when panic erupts. Everyone bolts, except Sun Woo. Not because he's brave, but because he's too scared to move and risk attracting the goblin's attention. The other students start yelling at the sword guy to do something, since he's the only one with a weapon. But the guy starts bawling and flat out refuses to fight. That's when Sun Woo realizes he's absolutely screwed. The goblin charges at him. He tries to run, but suddenly stops. If he turns his back, he's dead. So he whirls around and kicks the goblin hard. The creature's small, so he grabs a chair and smashes it like a bug. After killing it, a notification pops up he's earned 10 gold for defeating a goblin. He stares at the message, thinking, has their world actually turned into some twisted fantasy game? Then, another alert. As a necromancer, he can now command the dead. At level 1, he can control up to 3 goblins. And just like that, the goblin he killed rises from the ground, its eyes glowing as an undead warrior. Sun Wu finally understands. His class really can summon the undead. Just then, 2 more goblins burst into the room. The students scream again, full panic mode. Sun Wu stands tall, his undead goblin in front, waiting for orders. Without hesitating, he commands it to attack. The undead goblin charges in, slashing at the living goblins with its blade. But it's 2 against 1. One of them manages to slice into its left arm. Sun Wu realizes he might need to jump in if his summon loses. The goblins don't seem that tough. They've got tiny, childlike bodies, but he still needs a weapon. He quickly yells at the sword nerd to toss over his blade. But the guy clutches it like his life depends on it, shouting that he won't hand it over. Sun Wu tells him, fine, then go fight them yourself. Of course, the guy refuses, scared out of his mind. At this point, Sun Wu's had it. Might as well just throw the guy to the goblins and steal his sword. To help his undead soldier, the main character grabs a chair and hurls it at the monsters. Taking advantage of the distraction, the skeleton soldier finishes them off with its blade. The MC earns more gold for defeating 2 monsters. Just then, he notices a one-armed goblin approaching him with an oddly cute expression. Meanwhile, the skeleton keeps staring directly into his eyes, which unsettles him, so he tells it to look away. The skeleton lowers its head, almost like it's feeling hurt. Right then, Sun Wu gets another notification reminding him he can control the undead. Wasting no time, he uses his spell to revive the 2 goblins he just killed. With that, he hits the current limit of undead soldiers he can summon at his level. While everyone is still trying to figure out what's going on, they suddenly hear cries for help from other parts of the college. That's when the MC starts realizing this might not just be a campus attack. This could be happening across the country. Outside, everything looks like it's burning. The city appears to be in complete chaos. Given the circumstances, one student opens the door and suggests they keep moving. Another says they should run to the parking lot, since he has a car. As they rush to the stairs, a group of goblins leap out from the shadows. But before the goblins can reach them, the undead skeletons ambush the monsters. The MC yells for the students to keep running while his skeletons handle the threat. In a panic, the students scatter in all directions. The MC tries to stop them, but then thinks maybe it's better this way. He understands the situation follows some kind of game logic, and his best bet for survival is to keep fighting and getting stronger. As he watches his undead army holding the line, one of the monsters suddenly goes berserk and decapitates one of his skeletons. Now down a soldier, Sun Wu realizes things are getting risky. Fortunately, his remaining 2 skeletons manage to kill the enemies, and he gains more gold. He also sees that he's leveled up. Opening his profile, he finds that instead of attribute points, he gets a level up card, which grants him a random reward. Though it's based on luck, these cards are a major part of the game. He picks the random skill card, which ends up increasing his minion capacity by 1. He can now control for it once. He summons another skeleton, but notices his mana is running low. Surrounded by his skeletons for protection, he sits down to think. Since he still doesn't fully understand what's happening, he decides to focus on surviving for now. With his skeletons guarding him, he begins making his way downstairs. The scene below is just as bad, but he knows staying on campus isn't an option. He tells his skeletons to lead, and they move forward until they run into Hanho. Panicking at the sight of undead goblins, Hanho smacks one on the head with a dagger. The MC sees him crying and calls out to him. Hanho, confused, asks what these goblins are, and the MC explains they're kind of like his bodyguards now. When asked about his class, Hanho says he picked Rogue. The MC laughs, since Hanho chose a 1-star class, assuming it'd make him as powerful as a brigadier general. Even the skeleton minions seem disappointed. Hanho joins their group, and together they start heading off campus. As they move, the MC gets a new notification. He's gained a synergy effect from being in a group. The effect activates when 5 daggers are equipped, granting bonus gold and a chance to land a critical hit. He realizes it's a party buff that triggers under specific conditions, and even better, his skeletons can also benefit from it. This means he can use group-based buffs without needing a full party. As they make their way down slowly, they run into a group of goblins and a huge monster that looks like their leader. The moment Sun Wu encounters the goblins, a notification pops up saying that the monsters are under the influence of the scent of death, which lowers their stats by 30%. This effect only kicks in if there are at least 4 skeletons of the same type nearby with that buff active. Taking advantage of this, Sun Wu sends his skeleton minions to fight. They quickly overpower the goblins and start defeating them with ease. But then the real threat shows up, the boss monster. It lifts its hand and activates a skill called Wild Berserker, which powers up all the enemy minions. The tide of the battle begins to shift as the now buff goblins start fighting back harder. Sun Wu realizes he has to stay composed. The only way his skeletons stand a chance is if he gets rid of the buff first. He commands the one-armed skeleton to ignore the rest and go straight for the boss. The brave skeleton leaps at the monster and slashes its arm, cutting it clean in half. Though the skeleton gets kicked away, the buff is removed. His job is done. With the buff gone, the skeletons easily finish off the goblins. The boss monster tries to resist, not willing to go down easily, but after a tough fight, it finally falls. Sun Wu earns some bonus gold from the kill and notices the boss also dropped a few items, a spear and a wristband that boosts nearby allies. After picking them up, he sees the one-armed skeleton standing in front of him, clearly waiting for recognition. Sun Wu smiles, pats on the head, and the little guy seems genuinely happy. With that, they keep moving forward. While walking, they hear some voices nearby. Sun Wu tells his skeletons to hide so they don't scare anyone. A large group of students has gathered near the college's exit gate. One student is trying to calm everyone down, saying he already contacted the student council. Apparently, the main gate is locked tight and no one can get out. Sun Wu immediately recognizes the guy. It's Jin Suk, a known bully who also used to harass girls. He was part of the student council, which is why he acts like he's in charge now. Sun Wu wonders if he's just pretending to be the leader to show off. Jin Suk then turns to Sun Wu and his friend, telling them they need to help protect the other students since they have weapons. He even asks about Sun Wu's class and starts bragging about how he killed a goblin. While Sun Wu is cringing at the guy's arrogance, another student, some nerdy-looking kid with a sword, comes running and reports that he heard goblins near the staircase. Jin Suk immediately instructs everyone to take shelter in the nearby cafe while they hold the front. Meanwhile, Sun Wu calls out to his friend and points to a message written on the door. It says the door won't open unless the boss is defeated within a set time limit, and if they fail, the boss will only become stronger. Realizing that no one else is going to come save them, the main character knows they must kill the boss if they want to escape. Just then, he runs into Jin Suk again, who introduces him to a nerdy guy and tells the nerd to hold off the goblins. The MC asks if he saw the message on the door. The guy says yes, but he's waiting for a rescue team, thinking maybe the Korean military will come and save them. But the MC knows they can't just sit and wait. As he heads back toward the stairs, he sees a group of goblins charging toward him. The nerd nearly has a heart attack, and to make things worse, the skeleton minions appear too, sending him into full panic. The MC quickly signals the skeletons to stop and explains they're under his control. He calls the student council guy an idiot and sends the skeletons into battle. Thanks to the synergy buff from the scent of death, the monsters stand no chance. The students watch through the cafe's glass windows as Sun Wu's skeleton army fights off the enemies. The MC joins in, slamming goblins with a spear. Jin Suk watches in disbelief. He was planning to run away at the first opportunity. As the goblins try to escape, the MC orders his skeletons to block the stairs. He knows he needs everyone to trust that he controls the skeletons, or they won't stand a chance against the boss. Just then, his bracelet activates the Wild Spirit buff, boosting all his minion speed. These goblins aren't a threat now, but the MC knows tougher enemies are coming. The students begin to realize he's the one commanding the skeletons. As the army wipes out the goblins, cheers break out. He's finally earning their trust. He searches the fallen monsters for loot, but only gets a notification saying he's received a roulette ticket. He wonders how they'll deliver it, considering he has no inventory. They all regroup, and when the MC sees Jin Suk, he smirks and asks if he was useful. Everyone stands awkwardly in silence, unsure what to do. The MC tells them they can't leave just yet since the door won't open unless the boss is killed. He explains that the boss is somewhere in the building. Upon hearing this, the students all instinctively step back. None of them want to take on the boss. The MC warns them that failure could lead to even worse monsters showing up. Suddenly, one student raises his hand and says he's seen the boss, It's on the rooftop. Knowing what needs to be done, Sun Woo asks if anyone wants to go with him. As expected, no one volunteers, not even his friend, who wants to stay behind. But the MC insists and drags him along to help buff his skeletons. While they're talking, a girl named Jisoo cuts in and says bringing more people could be a bad idea because the rooftop is narrow. She points out that the MC already has his skeletons and weak people will just get in the way. The MC thinks she's acting a bit too recklessly since they don't even have enough info about the boss yet. He looks to Jin Suk again, but the guy's already trembling and says he has to stay behind to protect the others. Realizing no one else is coming, the MC decides to head to the rooftop with the small team he has. As they climb higher, they're suddenly swarmed by goblins attacking from both above and below the staircase. Without flinching, Jisoo leaps into the chaos and slices through the goblins with precision. She's wielding a long sword and clearly knows how to use it. Her training shows. Hanho watches in awe, genuinely impressed by her skills. Meanwhile, the MC is handling the skeletons attacking from the upper side. Once they clear the area, the group continues upward. After a few steps, they find the injured professor. The MC rushes to his side, asking what happened. The professor explains that when the monsters first appeared, he tried to protect his students by leading them to the roof. But that turned out to be a fatal decision. A monstrous creature slaughtered all the students. Grabbing the MC, the professor begs him not to go up there, fearing for his life. But the MC stands tall, spear in hand. A new quest pops up: defeat the boss and avenge the professor. It also warns that his choice will shape his destiny. Realizing how important this is, he rallies his skeleton army and heads to the roof. The moment they arrive, a message notifies them. They've entered the boss room. The scene is grim. No students survive the massacre. Only the monster's minions remain. Seeing this, Jisoo is enraged and charges ahead to kill them all. But Sun Woo stops her, signaling her to wait. He knows they need to stay calm and think smart if they want to survive. Soon, the goblins spot them, grab their weapons, and begin surrounding the group. Hanho nervously asks if they should run, but the MC is determined to fight. He activates his Berserker spell, powering up his skeleton warriors, who immediately charge into battle. The MC tells everyone to use the undead as shields and strike when there's an opening. He ducks behind a minion and slashes when he sees a chance. Jisoo follows suit, cutting down enemies efficiently. Hanho, on the other hand, is frozen with uncertainty until he pulls out a dagger and throws it. It lands perfectly, instantly killing a goblin. Even he's shocked. Turns out his past of tossing classmates' pencils gave him deadly aim. Excited, he throws another dagger. It hits again. He's locked in now, finally finding his role. As the goblins start losing, a debuff kicks in, lowering their stats and making them panic. They retreat in fear until they reach a massive goblin towering over them. Everyone realizes this is the boss. The goblins rally behind their leader and charge once more, fueled by new determination. As the group tries to hold their ground, they watch in shock as the boss demolishes one of the skeletons with a single powerful strike. Panicked, the main character quickly orders all his summoned minions to retreat. But the boss doesn't stop. He keeps attacking, eliminating the skeletons one after another. The MC revives them, but his mana is running low, and he knows he can't keep it up for much longer. Hanho attempts to catch the boss off guard by throwing his dagger, but the boss deflects it with ease. Enraged, the boss charges after him, making Hanho scream for backup. The minions try to help, but they're easily swatted aside. Still, one skeleton manages to land a blow on the boss, which only fuels his rage further. He kicks that skeleton away with brutal force. Just then, the sword-wielding girl appears and strikes the boss while he's distracted. She lands a solid hit, but it's not enough to finish him. The MC realizes she's thinking tactically, so he decides to make a move of his own. He has his minions surround the boss and commands one to attack from behind. As the boss turns to defend, the MC hurls a spear straight into his face, causing the boss to roar in pain. But things are looking grim. The MC's mana is nearly depleted, and only 3 skeletons are still standing. The boss catches on and bursts out laughing, assuming victory is his. He swings his sword, causing the MC to drop his guard. As the boss charges straight at him, the MC knows this could be the end unless he thinks fast. Fortunately, he spots a sword lying nearby. Bracing himself, Sun Woo grips the sword tightly and tells his remaining minions to rush the boss. The boss instantly crushes one minion, but the other leaps into the air and catches the sword tossed by the MC. Though the initial strike fails, the sword triggers a synergy effect. Its weight decreases and attack speed increases. Even better, the minion activates a special one-armed warrior trait, giving it an 88% chance to inflict a bleeding effect with its first hit. With these buffs, the MC sees a path to victory. He grabs a chair and charges at the boss alongside Jisoo and the sword-wielding minion. He smashes the chair into the boss to open a window for attack. Just as they move in, the boss slams the ground, triggering an explosion that sends them flying. In the chaos, Hanho hurls a dagger that lands perfectly in the boss. Realizing this is their shot, the MC orders his one-armed skeleton to sacrifice itself for the win. The minion had played a crucial role so far, and now, in a final act, it slashes the boss and activates the bleeding effect. At last, the boss collapses. The MC levels up. Then, to his surprise, he notices that the skeleton has absorbed the boss's mana and evolved. It's now at level 2 and holds the traits of a commander. His friends also confirm they've leveled up from the battle. As they talk about their level-up rewards, the MC picks a random skill card. It grants him the ability to craft weapons from bones using mana. For now, he can only make 4 weapons at once, and the quality depends on the bones used. With the boss defeated, his exclusive quest comes to an end. He earns another skill that boosts the number of minions he can summon. However, the part about destiny still confuses him. While he's deep in thought, something falls from the sky, a hood. One of his friends grabs it and tells him it boosts monster evasion by 50%. Jisoo receives a fire whetstone, which can set her blade aflame when used. The MC suggests they test out their new gear and powers later, since for now, they need to keep moving forward. Back at the cafe, the students were beginning to grow anxious. Even the nerdy kids started questioning whether they should have joined Sun Woo in fighting the boss. Hearing that, Jin-Suk snapped, yelling at the others that if they wanted to complain, they were free to leave or go up to the roof and die like the MC. But the students weren't having it. They called him out, reminding him that the only one protecting them was Sun Woo. That hit a nerve. Jin-Suk lost control and started verbally lashing out, claiming the MC was dead and they were on their own now. Just then, a group of skeletons appeared and scared the hell out of him. Sun Woo showed up right behind them and sarcastically asked if Jin-Suk still wanted him to die. Calmly, he opened the exit door, ready to leave the campus. As he and the skeletons moved to head out, they gave Jin-Suk a look. Sun Woo asked if he had anything to say. Jin-Suk, embarrassed, just pulled a face and kept quiet. Behind him, some students whispered that he was just faking his tough act, that deep down he was still a loser. Ignoring everything, Sun Woo, Hanho, Jisoo, and the skeletons left the building. After checking their surroundings and finding the coast clear, Sun Woo spotted a passage and told the others to follow. As they moved along, they stumbled upon several corpses, heads smashed in, weapons scattered. From the look of it, the MC figured goblins were behind the attack and wondered if any were still around. Suddenly, Hanho got excited. He had spotted a group of people in the distance. They all seemed armed and looked like they'd survived a monster fight. Jin-Suk rushed ahead, grinning, and greeted someone named Daesong, who was surprised to see him alive. As the two chatted, Jisoo looked annoyed. She clearly knew this guy. Jin-Suk whispered something to him, and Jisoo and Hanho quietly guessed it was about Sun Woo. The MC didn't care. He stood there smiling. Daesong introduced himself as the student council president and said everyone had suffered enough. They needed to unite to survive. Then he pointed at the skeletons and asked what they were. Sun Woo casually explained they were part of his class card. With a smug tone, Daesong questioned why he'd choose creatures that kill people. It was clear he was trying to make Sun Woo look dangerous. He said that if Sun Woo wanted to join their group, the skeletons had to go. Slightly annoyed, Sun Woo asked what would happen if he refused. Dramatically, Daesong raised his hand and challenged whether the MC really wanted to let such creepy, unsettling creatures join them. Hanho was initially upset about the insult, but after looking at the skeletons again, kind of agreed, though he still found them cute. Sun Woo clarified that the skeletons were part of his class, his weapons. Getting rid of them meant losing his edge. In this new world, he said, you needed protection, and they gave him that. Daesong smirked and replied that Sun Woo didn't need to worry. They would protect him. Then, he asked one final time if he still wants to join their group. Hearing that, Jisoo gets irritated and steps forward with her sword drawn. She snaps that none of them are interested in joining his group and adds that being part of the student council doesn't make him anything special. Daesung glances at her and, with a smirk, asks if she's from the Department of Social and Physical Education. She fires back that it doesn't matter anymore, since the university's already in ruins. He tries to de-escalate the tension and tells them to reconsider his offer, but that only ticks her off more. She brings up how he once forged checks and embezzled student funds during a festival, and proudly reveals that she was the one who reported him on the university website. That finally makes Daesung drop the act. He tells them to go their own way. As they leave, he yells after them, warning that they'll regret not sticking together because of the so-called synergy effect. Pretty bold words, especially when you're talking to someone who can summon an army of skeletons. Once they're away from the student council members, the MC asks Jisoo if she's got some personal grudge against Daesung. She replies that he's nothing more than a bully who only comes to school to flirt and harass women. Hanho grumbles at the revelation, annoyed that the student council president is just a scumbag. But Jisoo shifts the focus. She says they need to prioritize getting off campus. She also warns them to avoid crowded spots, since monsters might be targeting large groups. Sunwoo thinks for a moment and suggests they take the path by the hill. It leads to the main gate, but avoids most people. The group heads up a long wooden staircase, while a skeleton scans their surroundings. Everything feels oddly quiet. Suddenly, Sunwoo raises his hand, signaling everyone to stop. At the top of the stairs, they spot a massive orc looming over a pile of fresh corpses. This one is even bigger than the goblin boss. The MC immediately understands. They're now facing the next wave of monsters. Without warning, the orc slams its axe into the ground and charges. But the MC is used to facing monsters by now. He smirks, thinking this is another great chance to make more skeletons. The orc barrels into the skeletons and smashes them to pieces instantly. Then it sets its sights on Jisoo, who clumsily thrusts her sword at it. The orc's axe slams into her blade with force that nearly breaks her defense. Just as it lifts its axe again to strike, one of Sunwoo's skeletons jumps in and shatters itself to shield her. Realizing the orc can't be allowed to get any closer, the MC calls on his ace skeleton to intercept. The one-armed skeleton steps up, dodging the orc's blow and landing a strike on its shoulder. The MC yells to Jisoo, telling her to fall back to safer ground, since they can't afford to fight on the stairs. Jisoo is clearly frustrated. She hadn't expected the orc to break through her guard so easily. Once they retreat, the MC tells the team that direct attacks aren't going to work. The orc, though slightly shaken, starts climbing the stairs again. The group quickly retreats into the trees to limit its movements. The MC tells Jisoo he's going to use his skeletons as sacrifices. It's all part of his strategy. Luckily, there are enough corpses lying around. All he has to do now is manage his mana properly. Meanwhile, the orc pushes forward, thrashing through the trees in an attempt to hunt them down. After surrounding the orc, Sunwoo commands his skeletons to attack simultaneously. At the same time, Hanho throws a dagger at the monster. All the skeletons follow suit, launching their weapons toward the orc. Two of them charge from its blind spots, but the orc still manages to land hits on both. Despite that, the skeletons succeed in grabbing its arms and pinning them down. Right then, the main character and Jisoo dash toward the orc with their swords. The orc tries to strike Jisoo, but she dodges by slipping under its arm and slicing at its knee, forcing it down on one leg. Seizing the opportunity, the MC cuts off its right arm. That's when a one-armed skeleton leaps into the air and finishes the job with a final blow. A system window appears in front of the MC, showing that he's earned 110 gold for defeating the orc patrol leader. Surprised, he realizes they just took down the orc boss. Jisoo remarks that this one wasn't as strong as the previous boss they've fought. Curious, the MC walks over to the corpse and tries to summon it, but the system tells him his level isn't high enough to raise mid-tier monsters yet. Instead, he summons regular skeletons. He then asks Jisoo which card she chose. She says she picked the 3-star Tiger Hunter card just because she liked the color. With his mana fully recovered, the MC decides to test out his new skills. He uses his bone crafting ability to make weapons: a sword, blunt weapon, spear, and a low-grade arrow. Each of these can be traded for gold. As he inspects the axe, he notes how much lighter it feels than expected. He tosses it to one of his skeletons and arms the others with freshly made weapons too. This ends up triggering additional synergy buffs for his skeletons. He even lends a sword to Hanho, telling him to return it to the skeleton later. The group then starts heading downstairs. Along the way, Hanho notices something strange. A sealed purple gate stands before them, with a warning that says they must defeat the boss in 8 minutes, or else all the monsters will receive double power. This frustrates the MC, as it's now the second time they've run into this kind of challenge. Suddenly, another alert shows up. Orc squads have begun a hunt, drawn by the scent of hunters in large groups. Jisoo quickly realizes that the larger the group, the more enemies they'll attract. So sticking with a big team may not be a good idea here. Meanwhile, an orc appears near the student council team. From outside the building, Jisoo and Hanho can hear their screams. The group feels thankful they didn't join them. All three come to the same conclusion. Being in a large group isn't always an advantage. Just then, a new notification arrives. The first orc wave is incoming. They're about to face 5 orcs. Hanho begins to panic as he sees them drawing near and asks the MC what to do. After a brief pause, the MC grins and says he has a plan. He's going to set up a trap using the nearby cars and skeletons. As the orcs begin moving down the road, one of them notices Hanho standing on top of a car, mocking them by calling them pigs. Enraged, the orcs charge at him. But just before they reach, a car door suddenly swings open, throwing them off balance. That's the cue for the MC and Jisoo to jump into action. Jisoo draws her sword while the MC commands his skeleton army, who are hidden nearby, to launch an ambush. The skeletons strike from all directions, giving the orcs no chance to fight back. After the battle, a system message appears announcing their victory. Sun Woo earns 100 gold for defeating the first wave and levels up to level 4. He realizes he can now command up to 7 minions, though his mana pool is still quite limited. Meanwhile, Hanho is thrilled about unlocking a new high-speed skill. The MC then asks Jisoo what ability she picked. She says she chose Strength, which increased her power by 2 points and gave her a fiery warmth in her body. Sun Woo tells Hanho to return his sword and then summons 2 more skeletons, preparing for whatever comes next. He passes the sword to one of the skeletons who reaches out for it. As the group begins to leave the area, they notice the entire city has plunged into chaos. While walking, Sun Woo suddenly raises his fist, signaling everyone to stop. Up ahead, a group of orcs are attacking a bus, trying to slaughter everyone inside. Peeking from behind a tree, the trio spots 7 orcs surrounding the bus. One man inside the bus attempts to fight back with a spear, but it's barely effective. The MC realizes things are looking grim, and that everyone inside might die. Jisoo watches as 2 orcs raise their axes for another blow and insists that they help. She suggests they flank the orcs from one side of the bus while the man with the spear attacks from the other. But the MC hesitates, unsure if that man would actually have the courage to fight. He tells her it's risky to depend on strangers in situations like this. Then he points at a nearby truck and says they'll give the orcs a taste of modern civilization. Inside the bus, a blonde man holding a sword and shield yells at the spear-wielding man, blaming him for not doing more. Kyung-soo Lee shouts back, challenging him to fight the orcs himself if he's so confident. Passengers are shaking and crying, all convinced they're going to die. Then, out of nowhere, the orcs stop attacking the bus. They turn to see a car barreling toward them. The vehicle crashes through, flinging 2 orcs into the air. The people inside the bus are stunned, unable to process what they're seeing. Suddenly, skeletons leap from the truck and begin attacking the remaining orcs. Ironically, one of the bus passengers is even more terrified of these skeletons than of the orcs. Once the chaos settles, the people on the bus wonder if the skeletons have left. Just then, one appears at the window, causing a man to drop his spear and fall back screaming for it to go away. Hanho knocks on the bus door, trying to get the man to open it. Though he sees them, he's still too scared of the skeleton to move, even after they assure him they're human. With all the orcs defeated, the group eventually leaves the area. The scene shifts to Hanho smashing a vending machine with his hammer. Sunwoo watches and asks what he's doing. Hanho grins, winks, and admits he's broke, but still craving a soda, so he's trying to break it open. Just then, the blonde guy they recently rescued walks up and attempts to buy a Coke for Hanho, only to realize the machine's broken. Scratching his head, the main character asks if they should continue their discussion. He points to another machine and asks if it dispenses items. Kyung-soo nods, explaining they had tried it once, but didn't have enough gold to do more. His eyes then shift to an old TV with a sticker that reads, "If you need this, go ahead and take it," implying they might get something by following the message. Suddenly, the TV lights up and welcomes them to the E-Class store. Sun Woo touches the screen to check what's available. The store has 3 reward tiers, bronze, silver, and gold, and sells items up to gold rank. While browsing, Hanho and Jisoo ask if the shop really works. He says they'll only find out by trying. Hanho has around 360 gold, Jisoo has 584, and our main guy? He's stacked with 1552 gold, enough to try the silver roulette. Plus, he's holding an unlimited rank roulette ticket that lets him pick any rank item. Hanho watches in disbelief as he picks the gold roulette. Luck's on his side. He hits first place and scores a legendary item, the Tear of the Sea Spirit, a blue orb that boosts mana by 300 and increases recovery by 200%. Exactly what he needed, since he'd been running into mana issues. Feeling lucky, he then tries the silver roulette and wins second place, earning a shield. Jisoo also scores his second place and receives a skill, leader of the expedition force. Meanwhile, poor Hanho ends up with third place and gets some potions. He's clearly disappointed, but Sun Woo reassures him that they might come in handy later. Jisoo then updates the group. The fight at the sports field is still going on. Time to move. Hanho turns to the MC and asks if they're sticking with the same plan. Sun Woo just smiles at the truck and says he's got something bigger planned this time. Elsewhere, the student council is under attack by orcs, shouting for help. Daesung tells them to regroup and prepare to escape while he holds the enemies back with his sword. One student mentions that people are trapped in the stands, but Daesung tells him to ignore it. They don't have a luxury to save everyone. He orders Jin Seok and Hyungmin, both shield bearers, to lead the way. Just then a bus slams into the orcs from behind, crushing them. Inside, someone laughs maniacally. After the carnage, Hanho leans out the bus and yells for everyone to get in. The players outside instantly regret not following them earlier. Jisoo hops off the bus and comes face to face with an orc, the same kind she fought before. Ready for payback, she blocks its attack with her sword. This time, her weapon holds firm. With her burning sword, she finishes off the orc and turns around triumphantly, only to see Sun Woo and his skeletons annihilating the rest of the orcs from a distance. She realizes how clever his strategy is, attacking while staying out of harm's way, and suddenly feels a little dumb for putting all her points into brute strength. As Sun Woo continues tearing through the orcs with precision, she can't help but wonder what kind of life he lived before all this. After killing the orcs, Sun Woo turns to Daesung and demands to know what he's doing there, especially since he never liked being near his skeletons in the first place. Daesung lets out a nervous laugh and asks if Sun Woo really plans to hold a grudge given the situation. But Sun Woo, visibly angry, calls him out for abandoning people and running away. Daesung tries to cover it up, saying he was just retreating to reorganize his team, though everyone on the bus knows he's lying. While they're arguing, a notification pops up warning that the orc chief is enraged. Without hesitation, Sun Woo climbs on a bus and tells Daesung that if he wants to come too, he has to follow orders. First order, hand over his armor. Daesung complains, asking how he's supposed to protect himself without it. But Sun Woo just smirks and assures him he'll be under his protection now. As they move out, Sun Woo gets a system notification saying he's leveled up to 5, which allows him to control medium-sized monsters. Another message tells him the maximum number of monsters he can control has increased. He's happy. He can now command 9 monsters. Then he notices something behind him. One of his skeletons is now wearing Daesung's armor. He wonders if it might be too heavy for the skeleton to move, but remembering past battles, he realizes this particular one is more dependable than the others. He sighs and tells it to take the armor off. The skeleton gives him a helpless look as Sun Woo puts a chain mail over his white t-shirt. Hanho shows up and points at the group of people they've rescued, suggesting they'll need another bus if they plan to save more. But Sun Woo shuts that down. No more rescue missions. With Jisoo and Hanho by his side, he steps toward the crowd, gripping the bus's handrail as it rocks. He tells everyone they'll have to fight the orcs. A system window flashes up, declaring that the orc boss has launched a global destruction operation, meaning the monsters will keep hunting until every last survivor is dead. Sun Woo stares at the crowd with determination and reminds them of the game's rules. There's no running from the orcs. The only way out is to defeat the boss. A man in a tracksuit with bandaged fingers raises his hand and says he saw a ton of orcs in the gym, around 100 by his estimate. The crowd gasps in fear, just as the system issues more alerts. The first message says at least 10 players are under level 5, which will lower their movement and attack speed. The second states that at least 10 players haven't killed even one monster, reducing their attack power and gold earnings. The third warning says that because most people are hesitant, their risk of falling into confusion has gone up. Sun Wu lets out a heavy sigh. Sure, they might be able to take down most of the orc army, but now it's obvious to him. They won't stand a chance if this keeps up. The crowd stares at him in shock as he boldly announces that he'll fight the orcs alone. He believes that weapons mean nothing if the person holding them doesn't know how to use them. Jisoo and Hanho try to talk him out of it, but he tells them the same thing. Meanwhile, the crowd watches him, stunned, starting to think maybe he's lost his mind. The student council members smirk as they talk about how this might be the perfect chance to get rid of him. Jin Suk stares out the window, calling him an idiot and predicting his death. Jisoo, on the other hand, feels uneasy. She thinks this isn't a good idea and tries to stop him from going alone. But he reminds her that back on the first floor, she herself had said sticking together was pointless. His skeletons are far stronger than most of the people on that bus anyway, so there's no real benefit in bringing anyone else. Still, Jisoo can't shake the feeling that this time things are different. His plans are usually flawless, but the risk here is on a whole new level. As Sun Wu steps onto the battlefield with his skeletons, people from the university watch him through the windows. His friends sit inside the bus, a little distance away, ready to jump in if anything goes wrong. Sun Wu suddenly halts in the middle of the field. Dark, shadowy figures begin to appear. The orcs let out loud roars and storm toward him. With no system message popping up, he quickly guesses that this must be a mid-tier boss fight. He locks eyes with the red orc who raises its axe and growls, standing tall and commanding its minions to advance. The boss lowers his shield with a creak and braces himself at the top of the stairs. Sun Wu stands firm as the orcs rush forward, while his skeletons lift their daggers, ready to strike. He immediately triggers his wild berserker skill, boosting the strength and attack power of the goblins. But instead of engaging in close combat, his skeletons begin throwing daggers. A few orcs go down, but the red orc blocks the rest. Realizing the projectile attacks failed, Sun Wu quickly orders a full-on charge. He knows this is a desperate move, and sure enough, the orc boss wipes out all his skeletons. Raiti glares at the enemy, eyes burning with rage. Sun Wu places his hand on Raiti's skull and tells it to hold on. The orcs laugh, believing they've won, but out of nowhere, something smashes into one of them from behind. It's an undead orc warrior, now completely under Sun Wu's control. A system notification appears, stating that teamwork has activated the first stage of the synergy effect. Sun Wu unlocks the weapon synergy buff, which needs at least 5 axes. For the next 10 seconds, his attack power and speed are significantly boosted. The regular orcs struggle to fight back, overwhelmed by the undead ones, who neither bleed nor tire. Sun Wu watches from the top of the stairs, standing tall beside Raiti, as their undead forces dominate the battlefield. Some students peer out the windows in shock, watching him single-handedly tear through the orc horde. Behind the panicked orcs, Jisoo, Hanho, and the bus driver observe the intense scene unfold. Jisoo's eyes go wide as she remembers her last talk with Sun Wu. He had already planned all of this. As he checks his mana bar and sees it climbing, a wave of satisfaction washes over him. Could this be the power of a legendary item? Skulls float in the air above the battlefield, and another notification alerts him that the orc's abilities have been reduced by 30% due to the overpowering scent of death. Terrified, the orcs start to retreat, but their leader lets out a mighty roar, triggering a morale boost that cuts the debuff in half. With renewed energy, the orcs charge again. But Sun Wu's undead army is more than ready. Raiti climbs onto a fence above Sun Wu and joins the charge. Sword in hand, it slashes through the enemies. Combined with the undead orcs, the skeletons rush forward at Sun Wu's command, ready to crush anything in their way. After wiping out the orcs, the main character slumps down on the steps, exhaling deeply. A system message pops up in front of him. He's earned a lottery ticket for defeating 100 monsters. This achievement upgrades him to infinite status, making him the 21st player to reach it. It hits him then, 20 others already reached this milestone before him. Suddenly, the sound of a bus grabs his attention. Someone's trying to flee by driving it away, but they crash straight into the pink wall barrier. It blocks their escape. Sun Wu's irritation grows as he spots the student council group surrounded by orcs. Turns out, they were the ones trying to escape using the bus. Now, they're screaming for help while the orcs try to drag them away. Frustrated, Sun Wu facepalms. Their disobedience just made things worse. As he gears up to go help them, the other students are encouraged to join in. Although he usually fights solo, he allows them to tag along. On one condition, they better not get in the way of his skeletons. He heads into the building, flanked by 2 undead orcs. The place is horrifying. Dead goblins hang from the ceiling, and the atmosphere is grim. The group pauses when a light glows through the smoke, revealing a monster with glowing eyes. Holding his orb, Sun Wu wonders if this is the boss. He tells everyone to get ready. This is going to be the orc boss fight. The hostages are in terrible shape, bloody, bruised, and some even missing teeth. Sun Wu feels slightly relieved that no one has died yet, but he's also puzzled. Since when did orcs have the brains to take hostages? The student council members beg him for help with desperate eyes, but he glares back coldly, blaming them for their recklessness and for dragging others into this mess. He's done playing nice. If they can't even follow his lead, then it's time to go all in and show no mercy. Showing weakness now would be a mistake. He decides to surprise the orcs with a sudden attack and rescue the hostages. But before he can move, an orc swings its axe and cleanly decapitates the student council president in a brutal display, making everyone terrifying. And then, things get even worse. The real orc boss appears on the roof. He casts a bizarre spell, instantly draining everyone's strength. Multiple system alerts pop up for Jisoo. She's been hit by Breath of the Abyss and is now confused, with her mana being siphoned away. The orc boss finally descends. He's a junior-level black magician, almost like a shaman. Hanho, with trembling hands, tries to open a mana bottle. He drinks it to restore his strength, and even offers one to Sun Wu. But Sun Wu refuses and tells him to give it to Jisoo instead. A sinister grin spreads across his face as he breathes in the swirling dark mana. It's strangely refreshing. A system alert informs him that the Breath of the Abyss has drastically boosted his mana, now exceeding 4,000. Now it all makes sense. He feels unstoppable. Another notification states that his first awakening has been temporarily triggered by the abyssal energy, massively enhancing his stats and increasing the number of monsters he can summon. As he steps forward, lit only by the glow of his own mana, he looks absolutely terrifying. A necromancer powered by black magic? That's a nightmare combo. With a smirk, he approaches the boss and casually asks what he just did, catching the boss completely off guard. Jisoo rushes to his side, urging him to launch a team attack like they did on the rooftop. But Sun Wu simply smirks again, his whole body now radiating with overflowing mana, and declares that nothing will ever be the same again. Undead soldiers launch into the air, and Hanho watches in awe as every corpse on the rooftop begins to rise. His eyes widen in disbelief, while system messages flood in, listing all the new synergy buffs they've just gained. Sun Wu, now looking like a full-blown demon of death, glares at the boss, ready to show him what real necromancer power feels like. The orc shaman goes on a rampage, smashing all the undead warriors into pieces. But then, a system notification appears. It confirms that no matter how many skeletons the shaman destroys, they're guaranteed to be revived. Every time he kills one, Sun Wu instantly brings it back. As the cycle continues, the orc shaman starts getting exhausted. He looks at the main character, who now resembles something out of a nightmare, a total beast. Without even realizing it, Sun Wu has become the boss himself. He then asks the shaman if he finally understands who he's up against. With glowing eyes locked on him, Sun Wu stares deep into his soul and tells him this is what death truly looks like. Terrified, the shaman starts to panic, unsure of how to deal with Sun Wu. He tries to escape, but it's too late. The undead army has surrounded him. Watching this, Sun Wu tells him it's foolish to think he can run from death. The poor shaman screams as skeletons lunge at him from every direction. He struggles to fight back, but the sheer numbers overwhelm him. Eventually, Raiti finishes him off, putting an end to his misery. For defeating the junior black magician, Sun Wu earns 1,055 gold. Then, after the orc chief is dead, Raiti absorbs his mana and ranks up. Sun Wu realizes it's something important. His minions need to land the finishing blow on a boss to gain experience. He opens his minion list, 33 skeletons in total, including one level 3 veteran. While checking this, Hanho calls out to him, pointing out something coming out of the boss monster's mouth. When Sun Wu looks closer, he sees it's an item. Its description reveals that it grants devil attributes to the user, but once equipped, it demands many sacrifices to remove. Sunwoo doesn't fully understand what these devil attributes mean, but guesses they might be similar to his necromancer class. He equips it anyway, and now gains the ability to steal mana from enemies with every hit. Suddenly, all his skeletons collapse back into bones. The orc shaman's spell has worn off. The group heads back to the students, who cheer for their victory over the boss, and even call Sunwoo their hero. But he doesn't feel anything. He doesn't need praise or people. He knows that to increase his chances of survival, he has to avoid gathering too many people around him. Now that the boss is defeated, the seal breaks and the exit doors swing open. The students begin talking among themselves, wondering if they can finally get out. Some think it's best to stick with Sunwoo for survival. Meanwhile, Hanho checks his phone and tells Sunwoo, with a worried look, that the same disaster is happening all over the world. He worries about his parents, which makes Sunwoo think about his own family too. Just then, a bus pulls up and Kyung-soo urges everyone to hop on. He used to be a military driver and says he knows the location of the base. He plans to take everyone there. Sunwoo gives a small smile and lies, saying his house is nearby, so he won't be joining them. Kyung-soo then tells the students they've brought 2 buses to fit everyone. Apart from Sunwoo's group, all the other students board the buses. They wave goodbye, and then the vehicles drive off. After they leave, Hanho wonders where they'll head next. He asks Jisoo where she lives, and she replies that she stayed in the school dorms since her family lives on an island. She then asks if she can stick with Sunwoo, even though she doesn't think she'll be much help. He reassures her that she will be, and lets her stay. Hanho asks the same thing, but Sunwoo jokes that Hanho needs to cut off one of his hands first if he wants to be a one-armed warrior like Raiti. Out of nowhere, Jisoo shoves both of them to the ground. Just as they hit the floor, a massive dragon flies right over them. The group stares up at the terrifying beast, completely unsure of what they're looking at. Meanwhile, the bus comes to a halt, and Kyung-soo notices several dragons tailing them. One guy yells at him to keep driving, but Kyung-soo insists it's actually more dangerous to move right now, since the dragons are only targeting buses that are on the move. Just then, a system alert pops up, announcing the arrival of the boss monster, the Wyvern Alpha Male. In the next moment, the dragon swoops down, lands on the bus, and tears it apart after hurling into the air. Watching this unfold, Sunwoo comes to a hard truth. He's not nearly strong enough for this world, but he also realizes he can become stronger. With his back turned to Jisoo, he tells her they're done running. From now on, they're going to start hunting the monsters instead. This catches Jisoo off guard, and she asks what he means. He explains they can't keep just adapting to their circumstances. If they do, they'll simply go from being easy prey to prey that's slightly harder to kill. To truly survive, they need to dominate the monsters. Clenching his fist, Sunwoo leads the group toward a group of orcs. As the players and orcs stand face to face, a system message appears. The tutorial is now complete. Sunwoo scoffs. If that was only the tutorial, he doesn't want to know what the real game is like. The hunt begins. Sunwoo sends his skeleton army to surround a group of goblins. The goblins try to flee, but all the escape routes are already blocked. The skeletons keep slashing as the goblins panic and run. Every kill earns Sunwoo bonus gold. Once the goblins are wiped out, he levels up. Hanho steps out from hiding, nervously laughing and pretending he handled it all on his own. Sunwoo sighs and tells him they were just small fry. Killing goblins won't help them much. He then checks his level up options and selects a strength card. Right after, he notices his body feels a bit different, stronger. Meanwhile, his skeleton army continues to eliminate the goblins in the area, bringing in more gold. He steps out and sees Jisoo standing there with her sword. She smiles and proudly tells him she killed 9 goblins on her own. Sunwoo turns to Hanho and tells him to collect the goblins' daggers. Hanho stores them in an icebox as they get ready to move ahead. Sunwoo then tells the group they'll be ignoring goblins from now on. Jisoo asks if that means they're going after stronger monsters. He explains that while goblins only give 10 gold, a single orc offers about 80, and he wants to find something even more rewarding. The group continues down empty streets. Eventually, Hanho spots military trucks up ahead. As they get closer, they see a pile of dead soldiers in front of the trucks, and notice that the soldiers seem to be holding shovels instead of real weapons. Suddenly, a soldier steps out of one of the trucks with a shovel and hesitantly asks if they're human, clearly uneasy about the skeletons standing behind them. Sunwoo waves and smiles, reassuring him that they're human and mean no harm. The soldier calls out to his sergeant, informing him of the newcomers. Sun Woo walks over and speaks to the sergeant, who stays behind a window and apologizes for not stepping out. He's got an injured leg. Sun Woo notices he was stabbed by a goblin. The sergeant, Sergeant Kim, admits he feels pathetic getting stabbed by a monster barely the size of a child. Somehow, though, they manage to survive. Confused, Sun Woo asks why they don't have guns. The sergeant explains that their guns didn't jam due to a technical issue. After the monsters appeared, all their weapons just stopped working. They had no choice but to fight with shovels and swords instead. Noticing the sergeant's condition, Han-ho quietly tells Sun Woo that he has a few healing potions. Kim moves closer to the window when he spots the bottle and asks if he can have one. But Sun Woo turns his gaze away, saying they can't just give away supplies that might be crucial for their own survival. Hearing that, the sergeant leans out of the truck and offers a trade. He'll give them all the intel he's gathered so far. The MC considers it and says he'll only decide after hearing the details to judge whether the information is actually useful. Kim then explains that there are wolves out there, each as big as a bull. Their squad couldn't even take down a single one before being overpowered. He adds that he's spotted something else too, QR codes. He's seen two so far, one at the station and another at the subway transfer center. Taking out his phone, he tells them to scan the codes. Doing so will install an app on their phones, which is currently the only way survivors can communicate, since all other forms of communication are down. After thinking about the survivor network, Sun Woo hands over the potion. The sergeant then asks where they're heading and learns they're planning to rejoin their unit. Sun Woo wants to know if he'll be safe there, and Kim replies that when the monsters first showed up, their superiors took away their guns and made them fight with shovels. Still, he believes their approach has probably changed by now, but the MC says they're headed somewhere else. As Kim gets ready to leave, he warns them about flying creatures in the sky. The sergeant begins to sweat after hearing that massive dragons are soaring above. After parting ways, the MC continues moving ahead with his team and the skeleton army. When they reach the station, they find their first QR code. Before scanning, Han-ho nervously asks if it might install a virus on their phone, because of course that's what he's worried about during an apocalypse. Once they scan it, the app installs and reveals a message board and news feed, where players can share updates with each other. The game admin also uses it to post announcements. Sun Woo looks through the admin's post, wondering who could be orchestrating all of this. He also checks out the message board, though it's currently empty. Jisoo informs him that it costs 1,000 gold to make a post. Suddenly, a new message pops up from player 4884, telling everyone that their group is setting up a safe zone at the H apartment complex in Waisong City. The post has two comments, one of them asking how to get in touch with the group. Han-ho looks at the address and mentions that it's actually close to where he lives. Sun Woo asks if they should head there, also wondering how the person who made the post managed to spend 1,000 gold so easily. After all, they had gone through a lot just to reach level 6, while the other group was already level 8. As he stares at the post, something about it feels off to him, but since he still needs to meet some high-level survivors, he decides to head towards the location anyway. Suddenly, his phone beeps. He checks it and notices that a comment on the post has been deleted. A player asks why it was removed, and the original poster replies that someone was just talking nonsense, so they deleted the comment. This strikes Sun Woo as suspicious as he keeps staring at his phone. Meanwhile, a muscular guy holding a phone smirks creepily, realizing that yet another victim has walked into his trap. Under the bright sun, a man is seen desperately trying to protect his daughter from a bunch of goblins. Armed with only a baseball bat, he does his best to drive them away. But soon it becomes clear he can't hold them off alone, so he shouts for help. None of the nearby players come to his rescue. They all watch from the safety of the surrounding buildings. As the goblins close in, one suddenly gets stabbed with a dagger. An undead orc appears and begins smashing the monsters with an axe. The man watches in disbelief as Sun Woo's undead army arrives just in time to help. Sun Woo reaches out his hand and reassures him that he's safe now. The trembling man explains that his house is nearby, but they've run out of food. Sun Woo digs into his bag and hands over a few goods. He knows it's not much, but it's all he can offer. The skeleton army overwhelms the remaining goblins, who try to flee. As the group chases them down a stairwell, they come across a dungeon sign. Han-ho asks Sun Woo if they should go down and finish the job. Before they can move any further, the man stops them and warns against entering the basement. He reveals there's something down there, even scarier than the goblins. Sun Woo smiles and thanks him for the warning. As they descend the stairs, a system notification pops up, informing them that they've entered the Elder Slime Shrine. Deeper in the basement, they find a goblin corpse with slime covering its head. An undead orc quickly smashes the slime with its axe. Each kill rewards them with 140 gold. Hanho, gripping his melting dagger, complains that the slime can even melt metal. But Sun Wu points out that it can't dissolve bones, making his skeletons the perfect counter. Just then, Hanho hears a sound and turns to see a massive slime creature. It destroys a skeleton with one powerful hit. Sun Wu realizes that if the slime can't melt its target, it just crushes and devours it instead. Plus, his skeleton's attacks are useless because of the creature's sheer size and density. Rather than making more skeletons, the MC begins crafting weapons out of bones and hurling them at the slime from afar. Jisoo throws him a skeleton, and he quickly transforms it into another basic weapon. While he's occupied making more weapons, the slime suddenly charges and attacks him head-on. The MC counters by using one of his orc warriors as a shield to block the blow. However, the slime ends up swallowing and destroying the minions. But instead of being alarmed, the MC grins and says the boss just made a big mistake because the skeleton it devoured had a pouch full of bones. He then activates his weapon creation skill, turning all those internal bones into weapons, which shred the slime from the inside. The skeletons waste no time and begin bashing the slime into even smaller chunks to prevent it from regenerating. The one-armed skeleton finishes it off, just like always, and they earn 2,255 gold for defeating the slime boss. Sun Wu tells the skeletons to gather the remaining slime in an empty glass bottle, thinking its acid might come in handy. While collecting the mucus, one of the skeletons finds the slime's core, a useful item that can dissolve or fuse materials. The MC carefully picks it up using a cloth and wonders if it might be a compound ingredient. Just then, Hanho calls out to him, asking him to check the comments on a certain online post. The post has several deleted comments. Other players had tried contacting the original poster to ask about them, but the poster only told them to ignore it. Someone brings up the first commenter who tried reaching out to the group and asks if they've arrived yet. Player 4884 responds that they haven't and suspects something might have happened to them on the way. Hanho finds it shady that they're deleting all those comments. Sun Wu starts thinking to himself, this group had already spent 1,000 gold just to make the post, and now they're throwing more gold into the comments. Something definitely feels off. Meanwhile, in an underground parking lot, a group of shady guys are hanging around. One of them questions why players are even bothering with monster hunting when killing other players is way more profitable. A normal kill earns 500 gold, and taking out another player can bring in over 1,000 gold depending on their level. Another guy laughs, agreeing that killing players is not only easier, but also more fun. Inside a car, two guys are sitting together. One of them asks about their boss, but the other seems totally unhinged. He grabs his head like it's about to burst, and suddenly screams out the name Professor Red. His companion is visibly uneasy and asks if he means the serial killer. The twitchy guy starts having a vivid flashback. He's being attacked by a monster, which reveals itself to be a vampire. The creature bares its sharp fangs and stares him down, saying he has a need for people like him. After getting bitten by the vampire, the man ended up becoming a low-ranked vampire himself. He couldn't believe how the hell things had spiraled like this. He had just gone to the convenience store with his gang to loot some stuff, but that monster bit him and turned him into a damn vampire. And after that, everything went to shit. He couldn't stop himself from killing every single one of his own gang members. The vampire just sat back and watched with this twisted grin, enjoying the show as he butchered them one by one. The boss kept drinking blood from the corpses lying on the floor, feeling himself slipping further away from anything human. The vampire gave him a cold look and told him to keep feeding, to grow stronger, and to wait until they crossed paths again. He snapped back to the present, yanked out of his flashback by the guy sitting next to him, who shouted at him. Another guy came up to the car window, asking if there was some kind of problem. The boss just stared at him for a second, then calmly said everything was fine and asked what he wanted. The guy held up his phone, showing a new comment on their post from player 157. The message said he was with two others and wanted to meet up, asking them to come to the park. Hearing this, the boss grinned wickedly and told them to head to the park right away. He couldn't help but think how stupid some people were. This open apartment complex was the perfect hunting ground for luring dumbass like them. The residents nearby, too scared to even open their mouths about it. In fact, the boss was already thinking about wiping them all out once they were done playing with their prey. As they were driving, the guy behind the wheel suddenly slammed the brakes. A group stood ahead in the middle of the road, backs turned, faces hidden under hoods. They couldn't see who the hell these people were. The boss, already losing his patience, shouted at the driver to just run them over. Without hesitation, the guy floored it and plowed right into them. But instead of bodies flying, all they saw were bones scattering through the air. Turn out, there weren't even people under those hoods, just goddamn skeletons. And before they could process it, Sunwoo used the skeleton's bones to form deadly spikes, slamming them into the car and making the driver lose control. The car crashed hard. The boss was completely disoriented, having no clue what the hell was going on. Suddenly, the window shattered and someone grabbed him, dragging his ass out and tossing him to the ground. Sunwoo snatched his phone, pointed a sword at his face, and asked if he was the bastard who made that post. The boss couldn't even get a word out. Sunwoo had already been suspicious after noticing the deleted comments earlier. He figured these assholes must have been up to something shady, so they'd set up a trap, but he didn't expect these psychos to actually try and run them over. The boss glared at him and growled, asking if Sunwoo had any idea who the fuck they were messing with. But Sunwoo didn't even flinch. He just kicked the man square in the face, hard, as one of the underlings watched in terror. Calmly, Sunwoo asked how many people they had upstairs, casually threatening to rip his damn head off if he didn't start talking. The guy suddenly started laughing, charging at Sunwoo and mocking him, asking if he'd ever killed someone before. But right then, Raiti appeared and slashed the bastard's arm clean with his sword, making him scream like hell as blood gushed everywhere. Sunwoo stared at him with disgust, saying that even in this screwed-up world, he wasn't some heartless freak who could just kill people on a whim. But his skeletons? They didn't give shit. One of the orc skeletons raised its axe, ready to finish the bastard off, but instead of begging, the man just started laughing like a lunatic. Sunwoo wondered if the pain had driven him insane. Then, Sunwoo turned to the other guy and asked, with chilling calmness, whether they should start by cutting off his legs or arms first. The terrified guy caved immediately, blurting out that there were 8 people upstairs. But before he could say another damn word, the boss suddenly stabbed him through the chest with his clawed hand, killing him instantly. Hanho and Jisoo watched in pure shock as the boss murdered his own ally without even blinking. His severed arm had morphed into a wicked, blade-like weapon. He ripped the guy's head clean off and started drinking his blood, healing himself and boosting his stats at the same time. He used to be a 3-star ninja, but after being bitten, he turned into a low-ranked vampire. In this form, he couldn't level up normally, but he could steal the stats of anyone he killed. The man stood up and let out a deafening roar, activating his berserk mode, which boosted all of his stats by 20%. Sunwoo quickly realized this bastard's class was even more brutal than his own. His group got into a tight defensive formation, with the skeletons shielding the front. Sunwoo knew they couldn't afford a single mistake. If they slipped even once, the vampire would rip them apart. He ordered the skeletons to attack, but the vampire moved way faster than expected, forcing them to fall back into defense again. The vampire ripped through the skeletons like they were paper, going straight for Sunwoo. He knew he had to take him down first to stop the undead from fighting. Sunwoo barely managed to throw up his shield before the vampire's sharp, deadly arm came crashing down. But right then, Jisoo slashed the vampire from behind. He only laughed in response and turned to attack her instead. While he was focused on her, Hanho jumped in and rained down a barrage of daggers, hitting him over and over like a damn machine gun. Pissed off, the vampire shifted targets again in a split second and launched himself straight at Hanho, giving him no time to dodge. But just before the hit landed, Raiti parried the blow, blocking it at the last second. The vampire dodged Raiti's counterattack, but S charged in from behind with an axe. Still, the vampire saw it coming and shattered the axe with a single strike. Sunwoo immediately raised his shield again, but the vampire's power was overwhelming. He easily weaved through every attack, mocking them, calling them too slow. While he was focused on Sunwoo, Jisoo appeared again from behind and swung her blazing sword at him. But the vampire saw it coming and easily dodged it, laughing as he taunted her, saying he could see that pathetic attack coming from a mile away. Right after, Raiti leapt onto the vampire, slashing straight through his left arm with his sword. The vampire let out a blood-curdling scream as his entire arm was hacked off. Sunwoo immediately saw the opening and shouted for all his skeletons to attack at once. But just then, the vampire's remaining lackey showed up, making him grin wickedly. He sneered, thinking they'd arrive at just the right time. But his cocky grin vanished fast. His men froze in place, terrified after seeing the grotesque, monstrous state their boss was in. The dumbass looked away for a second, and Jisoo didn't miss the chance. Her sword struck him hard. Raiti and the other skeletons jumped in two, slashing and stabbing him from every side. The vampire tried to fight back, but Sunwoo wasn't about to give him a chance. He rammed his sword right through the bastard's neck and coldly muttered if he could regenerate from this too, then ripped his damn head clean off. In that moment, Sunwoo got a reward. 1,000 gold for killing him, since he counted as a level 1 player. But instead of feeling proud, the whole thing made his stomach churn. What the hell? You could actually earn gold from killing players? He glanced toward the remaining goons, his expression darkening. He asked them bluntly if this was why they'd been going around murdering people. The thugs started trembling like scared little shits as the skeletons surrounded them. Sunwoo walked toward them slowly, his voice ice cold, ordering them to drop their weapons. None of them dared to disobey. They instantly dropped everything, raising their hands in surrender. After a round of harsh questioning, one of them spilled the truth. They didn't even know who their big boss really was. Their immediate boss just followed orders from some higher-up, but none of them had any clue he could turn into a literal monster. Sunwoo frowned, his mind racing. Was this so-called big boss the one creating these monsters? And if so, what the hell was his class? Could there really be classes stronger than 5-star ones? That disturbing thought lingered in his head. Then he asked the group how many people they'd killed so far. When they admitted they'd slaughtered over 21 people, Sunwoo's expression hardened immediately. Without a word, he signaled the skeletons. The bastards started begging for their lives, crying that they were just following orders. But Sunwoo didn't flinch. He'd already made up his mind. If these assholes lived, they'd only keep butchering innocent people later. He wasn't going to let that happen. Jisoo was clearly shaken after witnessing what just happened, but even she had to admit he wasn't wrong. Meanwhile, a new comment popped up on the post, warning Sunwoo's group not to meet with another group because they were a bunch of cold-blooded killers. The sergeant saw this and snapped, furious that now there were humans going around killing others on top of the monsters already roaming the city. But then he spotted another comment. It said that user 157, Sunwoo's account, had wiped out the murderers using a trap with the skeletons. As he read it, the sergeant's angry expression melted into a grin. He realized it was the same group he'd encountered earlier. A soldier nearby tried telling him about an incoming call, but the sergeant just waved him off, smiling proudly, muttering that their saviors were doing some damn good work. The scene shifted to a man clad in armor, who was also reading through the comments. He softly thanked Sunwoo's group for continuing to protect others, despite everything. Then he stepped out into the sunlight and asked his team if it was time for them to get moving too. Elsewhere, as Sunwoo's group walked along the streets, Hanho brought up a new post he'd just seen. It was from someone calling themselves the prosecutor of Yongdongpo. The post offered a place where players could comment freely if they didn't have enough gold to make their own posts, which usually cost 1,000 gold. Sunwoo and Jisoo talked about it, realizing players were using the post to search for missing family members, share info about synergy effects, and discuss monsters. It seemed the post had become a huge help for those too broke to make posts themselves. Finally, the group reached Hanho's apartment. He stared at the building with a heavy heart, anxiety written all over his face, praying desperately that his family was safe. Sunwoo placed a hand on his shoulder, calmly telling him to stay cautious. They didn't know what kind of shit show was waiting inside. As they climbed the stairs, they spotted dead orcs scattered around, making Hanho even more anxious. He kept muttering prayers under his breath, hoping his parents were alive. When they reached his apartment door, Hanho froze. A deep slash mark scarred the door, sending chills down his spine. Panicked, he yelled for his mom to open up. Moments later, the door swung open, and there stood his parents, looking just as terrified as him, but alive. Relieved, Hanho quickly asked them what happened. Turns out, neither of his parents had picked a class card. His dad casually said none of those cards seemed interesting to him anyway. While everyone was eating, Sunwoo casually asked the parents how they managed to fend off the orcs. Every other apartment had their doors smashed in, yet somehow theirs was still standing. The dad calmly explained that he used pesticides to keep the orcs away. That left everyone, including Sunwoo, completely stunned. The mom proudly added that every single orc ran off the moment her husband sprayed them. Hanho almost choked on his drink hearing that ridiculous story. After dinner, Hanho's mom thanked Sunwoo and Jisoo for bringing her son back safely. She even offered them some green tea, admitting it was the only thing they had left at home. Hanho, of course, tried to brag about how he'd helped too, by throwing daggers, but his mom wasn't buying it. She just brushed him off, telling him not to joke around during serious situations. As they all relaxed inside, some punk kids riding bikes outside noticed the lights on and smirked wickedly. Meanwhile, Jisoo was the first to come out of the shower. Seeing her, Hanho's mom thought she looked so fragile, and she couldn't help but feel bad for her. But in reality, Hanho was sitting there thinking that Jisoo was 30 times stronger than him. Sunwoo finally let himself relax as he headed to take a shower, relieved that both of his friends' parents were alive and well. If Hanho's dad hadn't used the orc's strong sense of smell against them, they'd probably be dead like the other players. Despite how fucked up the world had become, there were still some bright spots here and there. After showering, they all sat around cleaning their weapons. Hanho asked Sunwoo what his plan was, knowing they couldn't stay holed up here forever. Sunwoo told him their first step should be deciding where to go next before making any moves. Deep down, though, Sunwoo was thinking hard. The first orcs that attacked were probably scouts. If there was a whole group nearby, they could be looking at a large-scale fight. Their main problem now was figuring out exactly where to go since they already had a goal in mind. As Sunwoo was deep in thought, Hanho suddenly shoved his phone in his face, yelling for him to take a look. A new post had just gone up, from the same guy who opened a message board for players to comment. This time, the player claimed to have set up a safe zone inside Yongdongpo Post Station, with help from his 3-star class friend. But, of course, maintaining that zone wasn't free. They were asking for gold or food rations to keep it running. Jisoo stared at the post and asked if they could really trust the guy. Hanho thought the guy seemed like he genuinely cared about others, but Sunwoo wasn't so sure. He pointed out that he finally understood why that dude made the other post yesterday. Even if they weren't lying about the safe zone, they still spent 1,000 gold just to open a message board for survivors. It was pretty damn obvious this wasn't just charity. Sunwoo told them to look at the comments, which were filled with people singing the player's praises. In his eyes, it seemed like the guy was just using all this as a way to build himself a shiny, heroic reputation. And if a massive group gathered there, they wouldn't even have to lift a finger. All the supplies they needed would just come to them willingly. Hanho couldn't believe it. He was shocked that the guy might be doing all this just to benefit himself. Sunwoo admitted that maybe he was being a little paranoid, but even so, the station was way too far for them to risk checking out. While scrolling through the comments, Hanho spotted another post, this time from someone called Chief Gu, who claimed to have set up another safe zone at Weizong Fortress. But of course, he wanted rent in exchange for safety. Sunwoo wasn't thrilled about that rent part, but he was curious about the fortress itself. He asked Hanho how far it was from their current location. Hanho said it'd take about 20 minutes by bus. Hearing that it wasn't too far, Sunwoo decided that'd be their next stop. As they packed up, Sunwoo apologized to Hanho's parents for dragging them along all of a sudden. But Hanho's dad just smiled, saying it was fine. Sunwoo had brought their son back safely. He was happy to follow his lead. Hanho's mom warned them that apart from monsters, there were also bandits roaming the streets. That caught Sunwoo off guard. He asked what she meant. The dad explained that they were just some worthless high school punks on bikes, going around robbing people. Sunwoo let out a long, tired sigh, muttering under his breath about how he now had to deal with this dumb bullshit too. Right then, they heard the sound of bikes revving nearby. As they all turned to look, a group of cocky-looking teenagers pulled up in front of them, acting tough. The punks demanded that they hand over everything they had, waving around baseball bats and showing off their numbers. But Sunwoo just looked at them with this amused, almost condescending smile and asked if they really thought they had the numbers advantage here. Suddenly, several glowing eyes started appearing behind him. The kids froze, glancing back, then bolted without another word, speeding off like scared little shits. The group was left completely confused, not understanding what had scared the punks so badly. Sunwoo slowly turned around, his face tense, and saw exactly why. A whole pack of giant wolves was standing there, staring right at them. Luckily, the wolves weren't attacking right away. So Sunwoo quietly suggested they back away slowly. He sure as hell didn't want to fight those monsters up close. Even without their claws and fangs, wolves had incredible balance. If even one person tripped, they were dead meat. The group carefully retreated back into the apartment building. Hanho nervously asked if they were safe inside, but with the wolves still staring them down, Sunwoo knew damn well they could just smash their way in. As he racked his brain for a plan, one of the wolves suddenly charged straight at them, and slammed into the front wall. Without wasting a second, Sunwoo hurled an acid bottle at it, burning its face and body. While the creature writhed in pain, Sunwoo barked out orders for his skeletons to start chucking spears. Their only real advantage here was the ability to throw shit from a distance. Another wolf lunged toward the entrance, but Sunwoo quickly commanded one of his orc skeletons to block it. The wolf effortlessly tore the skeleton apart, biting off its head. But then, green acid suddenly gushed out of its mouth. Sunwoo couldn't help but let out a dark laugh as he revealed the trick. He'd stuffed that skeleton with slime mucus just to pull this off. Raiti then jumped down from the first floor, slamming his weapon straight into the wolf's skull, killing it instantly. Sunwoo was rewarded with 240 gold for the kill. The last wolf, now terrified out of its mind, watched as the skeletons marched toward it with their spears ready. It didn't take long before they finished off the remaining wolves, wiping out the whole damn pack. Sunwoo gained some more experience and finally hit level 7. Jisoo glanced down, muttering that they were just starting to feel more and more like a damn burden to him. But Sunwoo quickly shot that down, telling her it wasn't like that at all. The situation just wasn't on their side this time. Still, as he looked at her, he couldn't help but think to himself, despite her being in the Tiger Hunter class, she wasn't some generic fighter. She was basically specializing in brute physical power. Meanwhile, Hanho wasn't making much progress at all. He even tried to tame the wolf they'd fought earlier, but it was useless. His level was just too damn low. Frustrated, he suggested they keep moving. There were likely more monsters nearby, and none of them were in the mood to get ambushed again. Somewhere else, shit was hitting the fan. A military helicopter was being hunted down by flying dragons. The captain was screaming at the pilot to push the speed, but the poor guy shouted back that they were already flying as fast as they could. The captain cursed out Sergeant Kim, blaming him for not giving enough warning about these damn dragons. But the pilot snapped back, reminding him that it was his own dumbass fault for ignoring the reports just because Kim was only a sergeant. Before they could argue any further, a terrifying system message popped up. Field Boss Wyvern has appeared. The dragon didn't waste a second. It grabbed the helicopter in its massive claws and shredded it like a toy. After that, it perched on top of a massive building, letting out a deafening roar. Sunwoo and the others watched the scene in horror. Hanho had foolishly believed that the military might be able to do something against the monsters. But damn, he couldn't have been more wrong. His dad quietly pointed out that the dragons were settling down to sleep on top of the building, far too close to their so-called safe zone. But there wasn't a damn thing they could do while that beast was nearby. Sunwoo calmly told them that the dragons would eventually leave on their own, suggesting they get some rest while they had the chance. As night fell, the dragons dozed off atop the buildings while the group laid low on the ground below. Suddenly, Sunwoo noticed a bright flash, followed by a system message, just like the one that had appeared when the apocalypse first began. It was the second phase of card selection. Hanho freaked out, screaming at his parents not to screw up like he did by picking a low-star card last time. His dad confidently assured him there was no way he'd mess up. After all, he'd been playing cards for 20 goddamn years. Sunwoo glanced around, analyzing the cards, but time was already ticking down, just 15 seconds left. Thankfully, he'd already picked a card earlier. This one would act as a secondary class, stacking with his current one. As he scanned the remaining options, he noticed some cards vanishing right before his eyes. Other people were already snatching them up. Hanho nervously searched for a high-star card, desperate to pick something strong. But Sunwoo knew better. It wasn't just about the stars. He needed a class that would actually work alongside his current one. Then, finally, he spotted the perfect match and snatched it immediately. A 3-star link card for the Dark Mage class. A system message popped up, telling him the card would merge with his current Necromancer class, unlocking new skills. Sunwoo checked his new abilities and couldn't help but grin. They synced perfectly with his playstyle. Meanwhile, Hanho looked like he was about to cry his damn eyes out. He had accidentally grabbed a 1-star priest card. The only skill it gave him was a temporary shield for 10 seconds after killing an enemy. As he sat there sobbing, his dad smugly asked if he picked the right card. Hanho looked up, only to see his dad holding a shiny 3-star Pioneer card. This one allowed him to create safe zones. Sunwoo lit up with excitement when he heard that. This meant they wouldn't need to risk going to the fortress anymore. Hanho's dad kept flexing his new card, rubbing it in his face, before casually asking his wife which class she'd picked. She calmly replied that she'd chosen a 1-star chef card. Hanho groaned, telling her she should have picked something that wasn't so damn useless in battle. While the family squabbled in the background, Sunwoo quietly turned to Jisoo and asked about her card. She revealed that she'd picked a 3-star hitman card, which granted her an insane passive ability. Her senses would heighten whenever she was in danger. As Jisoo glanced at Sunwoo, she couldn't help but realize how strong he'd become. He wasn't just powerful. He could keep calm, think fast, and make tactical decisions, even in brutal situations. She admitted to herself that no matter how hard she tried, she just couldn't be like him. But deep down, she knew she couldn't stay weak forever. If she couldn't be like him, then she'd have to find her own damn way, growing stronger in both her body and her mind, no matter what it took. The MC called out to the dad, asking him to explain his skill in detail. The guy explained that the Pioneer class allowed him to create something called the Pioneer's Camp. It cost 10 mana every 10 minutes and let players take shelter from monster attacks. However, the shelter only covered a limited area and could be destroyed by strong attacks. Worse, if the player ran out of mana, the safe zone would start draining 100 gold every 10 minutes instead. Sunwoo muttered under his breath, realizing that keeping this safe zone active here would be a real pain in the ass. Plus, gathering a large group inside it didn't seem smart either. He suggested they save that skill for emergencies only, and they need to pick a proper spot for it too. Hanho then asked if they weren't heading to the fortress anymore. The MC glanced out the window and said there was no need for that anymore. He figured all the groups holed up in the fortress would just abuse their power like greedy bastards, so it was better to stay away from them. As he kept looking outside, he spotted the dragons moving again. Finally, the dragons flew away, and they could leave the building. The MC asked Hanho to check the forum for store locations. Sunwoo currently had over 24,000 gold on him, and he knew damn well that he needed to spend it soon. There was no telling when they'd run into another high-level monster ready to tear them apart. Hanho kept scrolling through the entire forum, but still couldn't find any info about stores. Suddenly, the sound of motorcycle engines echoed outside. The kids were back, now that the dragons had left. Hanho told the MC it was probably the same group of kids they'd run into the day before. The MC smirked, thinking they might as well ask those little shits about the stores. After all, they were always out there, snatching gold from people, so they had to know where to spend it. Meanwhile, the kids were talking about the store as they walked. They'd been unlucky last time, but they were hopeful they'd score some good items this round. One kid mentioned how most gamblers quit right before they hit it big. The kids finally reached their hideout, but something fell off. It seemed empty. They quietly unlocked a room and found their friends hiding inside. One of the kids asked about Eugene, who wasn't there. Another kid, on the verge of tears, said that the man had shown up again and taken Eugene because she hadn't collected enough money. Suddenly, Eugene stormed into the room, yelling at them to shut the hell up. The kid rushed to ask if she was okay, but his face went pale when he got a good look at her. She looked like a damn vampire. He brushed past her and walked straight into their boss's room. The boss, sitting there, called him Tai Song and immediately asked why he killed Woosuk, pointing out that Woosuk had been loyal to their cause and their leader. Tai Song coldly replied that Woosuk attacked them first. They didn't have a choice. The boss, narrowing his eyes, asked if he planned to kill Eugene too. He stood up and warned that vampires who avoided drinking blood would eventually lose their sanity. Tai Song hesitated, then asked if the boss even knew how many people Woosuk had killed. That question seemed to piss the man off instantly. He glared and asked if Tai Song was seriously talking back to him right now. He reminded him that their boss had generously allowed them to work for him, and they'd be dead meat if they started defying orders. Tai Song simply walked away, muttering that he'd figure things out himself. But the man wasn't done with him. He stopped him and growled that if he didn't bring back 10,000 gold within 2 days, he'd be the next to die. Right then, voices echoed from outside the room. Sunwoo and his group had entered their hideout. The MC grumbled about their pathetic customer service, drawing the boss's attention. The boss assumed they were there to buy something and casually asked what they wanted. Without wasting time, Sunwoo pointed his sword straight at him and ordered him to hand over every last thing he had. The vampire boss started laughing like a maniac, warning them they had no fucking clue what kind of mess they just walked into. But then, Sunwoo noticed the guy's fangs. He immediately asked if this bastard was the gang boss of the apartment. The vampire's grin twisted into rage as he realized these were the bastards who'd wiped out his entire crew. He snapped, charging at them in fury, but before he could land a hit, the orc skeleton grabbed him by the arms. Sunwoo calmly pressed his sword against the vampire's neck and asked if he could regenerate his head too. The two orc skeletons pinned the vampire down as Sunwoo slowly pushed his sword halfway into his throat, threatening to finish the job if he dared to move. He then coldly asked if this bastard was the vampire lord. The vampire suddenly started cackling, then snapped free and shattered Sunwoo's sword like it was nothing. He lunged towards Sunwoo, but before he could even get close, a storm of daggers rained down on him. Sunwoo seemed to predict every damn move he made. Before the vampire could recover, Jisoo charged in, slashing one of his arms clean off. He shrieked in agony, blood spraying everywhere. Worse, he couldn't even regenerate it properly because her flames kept burning through the wound. Jisoo swung again with her blazing sword. This time, he barely dodged, but she was faster, ducking and slicing him again. Furious now, he went wild, relentlessly attacking her. Shockingly, Jisoo kept up with his speed. At one point, he grabbed her sword to counterattack, but she sensed it thanks to her new skill and dodged easily. Before he could even breathe, the orc skeletons attacked from behind. Thanks to Sunwoo's new skill, they were now empowered by Death's aura. It made them a hell of a lot stronger, while weakening their enemies. Sunwoo thought grimly to himself how, before this, his skeletons wouldn't have stood a damn chance against this vampire. But now, they were overpowering him. The orcs quickly forced the vampire to his knees, leaving him nowhere to run. He started crying out in desperation, asking what the hell they wanted from him. As he looked up at Sunwoo, he finally realized this seemingly weak guy was the one controlling the skeletons. The vampire started scheming, thinking he could get close, pretend to talk, then kill him in one strike. But before he could even twitch, a set of bone spears ripped through his chest, pinning him in place. Sunwoo, staring at him with a chilling glare, told him coldly that he should still be able to talk with those spears jammed through his chest. He leaned in and asked, with a terrifying smile, "Or do you want some more?" Meanwhile, Taesong stood there, staring in utter disbelief, completely stunned at how they had managed to kill such a powerful monster. But the vampire just started laughing, mocking them, telling them not to get so full of themselves just because they'd beaten him. Then, right in front of their eyes, the vampire began to transform into some grotesque, terrifying creature, sneering that they were all screwed once their plan succeeded. Sunwoo had enough of his bullshit. Without wasting another second, he coldly ordered Jisoo to finish the bastard off. She didn't hesitate. Her sword sliced clean through his neck, ending him right there. Taesong watched in shock, immediately dropping to his knees and begging for his life, swearing that he and his friends had nothing to do with any of this mess. But Sunwoo just gave him a cold smile, saying all he wanted was for them to hand over everything they'd stolen. The terrified thieves quickly coughed up all their stolen gold, but it wasn't even that much. Jisoo, still eyeing the vampire's corpse, asked if the boss that vampire mentioned was really the same person she thought. Sunwoo told her that whoever this guy was, he was clearly growing stronger, and now he even had people collecting money for him. It was obvious this bastard was playing things smart, moving strategically behind the scenes. Jisoo couldn't believe it. Someone had already adapted to this brutal new world faster than Sunwoo himself. It felt like those guys were way more suited to this fucked up world than the old one they'd left behind. Sunwoo wasn't naive. He knew more vampires would start popping up soon, especially since the boss and his underlings could turn players into vampires too. As much as he wanted to just ignore it, he couldn't. He'd need his whole damn team just to take down even one of them. Right now, if those vampires grouped up and attacked together, they wouldn't stand a damn chance. He already knew today's fight wasn't the last. They'd definitely clash with those bloodsuckers again. Turning toward the terrified teens, Sunwoo asked about the store they mentioned. Taesong, trying to stay on their good side, eagerly offered to lead them there himself. But right then, everything froze. A chilling system notification appeared in front of them. It mentioned players who had refused to pick a card, even after being given a second chance. But this message wasn't like the usual ones. It was read aloud, and Sunwoo could immediately sense that something bad, really bad, was coming. Suddenly, one of the teenagers started screaming in pure panic, yelling that he hadn't picked a card yet. He confessed that he'd thought it seemed shady as hell, so he didn't trust it. Pointing frantically at another guy, he shouted that he hadn't picked a card either. Then, a terrifying red system notification appeared, announcing that any players who hadn't picked a card would now be turned into monsters. Both of the teens started screaming as their bodies began to grotesquely transform right in front of everyone. Sunwoo's expression darkened instantly. He knew damn well that if these guys finished transforming, they wouldn't stand a chance against them. Without hesitation, he ordered everyone to attack before it was too late, telling them to kill those bastards before they fully changed. Meanwhile, outside the building, Hanho's parents were anxiously waiting. His mom nervously wondered if it was really okay to be hurting these teens like this. But Hanho's dad wasn't having it. He stomped his foot and snapped that those little punks had made plenty of people suffer, even killed some of them, so they damn well deserve whatever was happening to them inside. Back inside, the orc skeletons were doing everything they could to crush the transforming monsters before it was too late. Sunwoo knew their only option was to kill them mid-transformation, otherwise, it was game over. Suddenly, one of the werewolves lashed out, smashing a skeleton clean in half with terrifying brute strength. Sunwoo could barely believe what he was seeing. Those monsters were seriously that strong? But Raiti and the orc skeletons didn't back down. They kept hammering away at the werewolves, fighting with everything they had. Finally, after a brutal struggle, they managed to kill them. The reward? A staggering 3,000 gold for each kill, plus Sunwoo even leveled up to 8. He stood there, staring in horror at the remains, shaken by how monstrous those creatures were if they dropped that much gold. Still rattled, he picked a random stat card from the reward, which ended up boosting his speed by 3 points. Honestly, he was pretty damn satisfied with that result. Jisoo commented that it was a smart move for him to keep stacking his stats. After all, it wouldn't take long for enemies to realize he was the one controlling the entire skeleton army. Once they figured that out, every single one of them would be gunning for him. Meanwhile, Hanho is still freaking out, wondering if they'll keep running into such terrifying monsters. Hearing that, the MC calmly tells him he already has a plan. He's going to try turning these monsters into his own minions. He hasn't tested this ability on humans yet, mostly because he doesn't want to ruin his reputation among the other players. But now, the situation has changed. There are still many players who haven't picked a card, and soon they'll all transform into monsters. If he wants to stand a chance against them, he can't keep worrying about what others think. As he starts turning the skeletons into his minions, he thinks that maybe they could even match the vampires in strength. Taesong watches in complete disbelief as his own friend transforms into a skeleton soldier to serve the MC. Suinwoo looks at the transformed skeleton coldly and asks where the store is. Taesong explains that the store is inside a used car complex, and that the people running it are far worse than his own group, who just steal to survive. These people, however, work directly under the vampires and hunt humans for them. After hearing that, Suinwoo tells Taesong to take him there. As they walk into the complex, surrounded by orc and werewolf skeletons, the MC senses something's off. There are no guards visible. Suddenly, a loud crash breaks the silence, and he orders everyone to hide. They all watch a bear monster fighting a vampire. The vampire's losing, getting slammed by the bear's iron chains. Suinwoo eyes those chains and starts thinking, maybe this monster was actually a human kidnapped and turned into this form after failing to choose a card. When it seems like the fight is over, the vampire charges back at the bear. Though injured, the bear counters and slams the vampire again. The MC sees an opportunity. If he plays this right, he might be able to bring the bear under his control. As the bear and vampire roar and go at it again, he commands his werewolf skeletons to step in. One werewolf manages to stab the vampire, but the bear retaliates. It tries grabbing one of them, but the second werewolf slashes it with its claws. The MC then gets a reward, 3,500 gold, for killing the bear. But he's already hit the max number of minions, so he has to destroy one to make space. He sacrifices one of the orc skeletons and replaces it with the powerful bear. The new bear minion is massive, likely the biggest size for a mid-tier minion. Suddenly, Hanho spots their school bus parked among other vehicles. That's when the group realizes the vampires have captured the students. Suinwoo figures that if all the students on that bus have been turned, he's going to be facing a hell of a lot of enemies. But charging in recklessly would be dangerous. He asks Taesong again about the store, and just as Taesong tries to give directions, someone smacks his hand away. He turns around and sees his friend, Yujin, but she's now a vampire. The vampire controlling her laughs at hearing her name, and says he hasn't harmed the girl because he considers all of them as children. He had come to investigate who'd been killing all the vampires. Suinwoo realizes that Yujin has been possessed and figures the vampire probably came after sensing his comrades dying. The MC tells the vampire that he talks too much for a vampire lord. The vampire laughs and says it's just a habit. He likes explaining things to fools. In fact, some people even call him the professor for that reason. Then he cuts to the chase, saying all of them are as good as dead. Suddenly, he casts a lesser curse on the MC, one that needs holy magic to be lifted. The vampire lord laughs, ready to finish them off, but before he can, Suinwoo kicks him in the face. Hanho watches in shock and questions if Suinwoo is even human anymore. The MC looks at a red mark on his hand, wondering if it's the result of the curse. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to be doing anything yet. Hanho appears dressed in a priest outfit, holding his hand out like some divine savior. The MC looks at him and sarcastically thinks how low the standards have fallen if even someone like Hanho can become a priest. Hanho takes his hand and tries to lift the curse, but his holy magic isn't strong enough. The curse instead reveals the MC's location to the vampire lord every 12 hours. Right then, the MC receives a system notification, a special quest. The objective is to kill the vampire lord, and the reward includes 30,000 gold and a C-rank item ticket. This new quest simplifies things for the MC. He decides he'll kill the vampire lord before the vampire can kill him. Suinwoo walks up to Taesong and asks him about the vampire's lair. The group then enters a D-rank item shop, where they're faced with 4 ball options, ranging from bronze to platinum. The platinum one is the most expensive, costing 100,000 gold. The MC decides to go first. Although he holds an unlimited rank ticket that could get him access to the platinum ball, he chooses to save it for later, thinking it might come in more handy down the road. He's confident in his own strength and doesn't urgently need an item, so he picks the gold tier option instead. A new screen pops up, showing several choices for gold balls. He recalls his previous experience and decides to pick the first place ball again, no matter how expensive it is, since that one usually yields the best reward. With a sly grin, he bets everything on it. Luck is on his side. He wins the first place reward. His prize is a coupon that grants him a master rank exclusive class skill. This new ability uses 0 mana and lets him create a safe space where his minions can rest and recover until he summons them again. If he calls out multiple minions at once, it triggers a curse of death that grows more powerful with the number of minions summoned. Meanwhile, Jisoo and Hanho shoot angry looks at him, annoyed that he keeps getting all the good stuff. Jisoo pushes him aside and heads in to try her own luck. Suinwoo, on the other hand, tests out his new spell and stores his minions inside the safe space, which essentially works like a massive inventory. He can summon them back whenever he wants. Excited, he turns to his friends to ask what they got, only to find both of them looking completely crushed. Jisoo ended up with a bank medkit and some hiking gear, while Hanho got a rough bullhide cuirass. Seeing their miserable faces, Suinwoo awkwardly asks if they should keep moving. At the same time, inside the vampire's lair, all the students are being held captive. Surrounded by the corpses of his friends, Kyongsu regrets not following the MC. He starts to question his decision to take everyone to the military base. They had dodged all the dragons along the way, only to find the base wrecked and empty when they got there. The students turned to Kyongsu, unsure of what to do next, and panic spread through the group. Overwhelmed, Kyongsu wondered why he was even the one responsible. He had just been the driver. One student showed him a phone, pointing out a safe zone in the fortress. As everyone waited for him to make a call, he realized they were all still alive because of him. With new resolve, he led them toward the fortress. But that, too, turned out to be a disaster. Instead of safety, they were met by vampires who slaughtered the students mercilessly. The few who survived were enslaved. One vampire kicks Kyongsu and tells him to keep moving. Laughing cruelly, the vampire says they'll just eat him if he gets too tired. As they joke about devouring the students, Kyongsu stares ahead in despair, fully aware his fate will be the same as his friends. Then, something strange happens. A skeleton appears before the vampires, tiny, no bigger than a minion, pointing a sword at them. The vampires laugh, assuming it's just another weak monster. One lunges to tear it apart, but ends up getting pierced by several spears. Suddenly, Suinwoo's entire army shows up. Kyongsu's eyes light up when he realizes the MC has come. As Suinwoo approaches, Kyongsu notices how much stronger he's become. He's baffled by the huge difference in their power, considering they're both just college students. The vampires try to regroup for another attack, but one is instantly shredded by the skeletal bear. Suinwoo stands confidently among his army and commands them to kill all the vampires, except for one, who he wants to interrogate. Kyongsu watches in shock, realizing this group is way stronger than he ever imagined. It's not just Suinwoo. Jisoo also looks a lot more powerful now. The last surviving vampire begs for mercy as orc skeletons hold him down. Suinwoo questions him about how many players and vampires are inside the building, as well as their levels. The vampire answers honestly. Only one vampire, the area manager, is at level 5. There are 12 players inside, and the strongest among them is level 4. Suinwoo thanks him for the information, but clearly has no plans to spare his life. The vampire panics and starts offering more, saying he knows the building's layout and security setup. But before he can say more, Kyong-soo suddenly stabs him. Looking up, Kyong-soo tells the others that he knows exactly what's going on inside the factory. Tears stream down his face as he pleads that none of the vampires can be allowed to live. Even though his friends have been scared and weak, they didn't deserve to die that way. Suinwoo puts a hand on his shoulder, telling him he's done well just surviving this far. He says the vampires around them didn't turn into monsters overnight. They used to blend in with normal people, just waiting for the right moment to unleash their true nature. The world they once knew might be gone, but they can't allow creatures like that to roam freely anymore. As they were sorting out the kidnapped players, one of the men asked the area manager how long he planned on continuing this. The manager smiled and explained that these people were simply a source of food and experience for him. They were easier to capture than monsters and far more useful. He added that their CEO had incredible insight and vision. Hearing this, the man got excited and expressed his desire to be part of that vision too. The vampire told him that if he kept working hard, he could become a regular member as well. After all, he himself had started off as just a low-level warehouse worker before becoming a full-time employee. But just as he was speaking, he heard someone mock him. Turning around, he saw the main character, Suinwoo, standing alone. Suinwoo chuckled and commented that they were calling their betrayal of humanity innovative. The manager stepped forward with his team and asked who he was. From inside the cages, the imprisoned students recognized Suinwoo and felt relieved to see him. The vampire growled, reminding them they were just food. Suinwoo shot him a cold look and asked if his CEO never told him who he was. That's when a vampire realized this was the same person who had taken out Manager Park. Suinwoo laughed at the mention of the word manager and sarcastically asked if that was supposed to be some kind of white-collar fantasy. Despite Suinwoo walking into the factory alone, the manager didn't think he could possibly handle them all by himself. But Suinwoo just smiled and said he'd take them all on with his skills. Suddenly, thick black smoke began spreading across the floor. The workers panicked as a notification popped up. The Great Spirit had been activated. Out of the smoke, skeleton minions began to appear one after the other. Along with their appearance, the Curse of Death effect was triggered, weakening all the employee stats. The vampire finally understood what it felt like to face someone truly terrifying. As the minions attacked, the enemies began to fall apart. The manager tried to calm everyone, but it was useless. Even when they destroyed a minion, it was instantly revived. Furious, the manager smashed one of the orc minions to bits and then made a move to attack Suinwoo directly, knowing he was the one controlling them. But before he could do anything, a bottle of acid hit him in the head. Hanho, standing at a window on the first floor, had a clear shot. As the vampire collapsed, Jisoo swooped in and began freeing hostages. At the same time, Kyong-soo crashed his bus through the factory wall and called for the hostages to get in. The vampire tried to chase after them, but didn't notice Raiti charging at him, riding a wolf. The werewolf skeleton slammed him into the ground, and Raiti leapt into the air, moving in for the finishing blow. Thanks to Suinwoo's insane buffs and debuffs, the vampire didn't stand a chance. Suinwoo pointed out that the abandoned factory they had chosen for their operations was actually one of the easiest places to raid. That's when the vampire began to panic, realizing that Suinwoo wasn't just strong. He was smart too. Bleeding from one of his arms, the vampire suddenly heard the CEO's voice offering him some power to defeat Suinwoo. Confused, Suinwoo watched as the vampire's body began to grow larger and wilder. A notification appeared. A high-level vampire had gone berserk. Looking at his monstrous new form, Suinwoo asked if that was his real self. The vampire, now enraged, charged at them and started attacking the skeletons. Though Suinwoo ordered them to fight back, the vampire held them off with ease. Moving quickly, he tore through the minions until he caught a glimpse of Jisoo flying over him. She slashed his back with her sword. As he turned, she grabbed Raiti and hurled him at the vampire. Raiti slashed through him midair. At the same time, another orc tried to attack, but the vampire crushed it. Each time a minion was destroyed, Suinwoo quickly revived it. Hanho was impressed that Jisoo could hold the vampire off on her own, but Suinwoo was starting to feel uneasy. He knew this wasn't sustainable. The vampire had lost a lot of blood and was in a berserk state, meaning he wouldn't last long. However, if Suinwoo's mana ran out before that, and his orcs couldn't hold the front lines, things could go south fast. Worst of all, this vampire was just a subordinate. Suinwoo couldn't help but wonder, how terrifying must their actual vampire lord be? While the MC is in the process of reviving his minions, he spots the corpse of a werewolf monster. Smiling, he casually apologizes to the vampire for taking over one of the monsters the vampire had captured. With the addition of a werewolf to his team, all his minions gain a new synergy buff. The vampire is left confused as he suddenly notices that the skeletons have become much stronger. Suinwoo then commands his werewolves to tear the vampire apart. Following his orders, they begin devouring the vampire alive. As this happens, Suinwoo looks the vampire straight in the eyes and tells him to deliver a message to his boss, that his little operation in Hwasong is now officially over. He earns 10,000 gold for killing the vampire, but at the same time, the system marks him as a player. The MC starts wondering if he can turn the vampire's corpse into one of his own minions. Previously, he had killed vampires by decapitating them to prevent regeneration, but this time, the head was still intact, meaning he could potentially convert it. He successfully revives the vampire's body as a vampire skeleton and tells him that he's now going to work under him instead of his former master. Suddenly, the MC receives a notification that he can now access the memories of corpses he controls. Curious, he checks the vampire's memory. Since he's never been able to view the memories of his minions before, he wonders if this is part of a newly unlocked skill. In the memory, he sees the vampires gathered in a meeting with the vampire lord, who's sipping from a large glass of blood. The vampire lord asks them about the purpose of the game, and when no one replies, he states that their main goal is to evolve. It doesn't matter whether the game was made by God or some alien force. What matters is that they finally have a chance to abandon their weak forms and create a new species. The vampire lord then speaks about his ambition to build a new world order. Suinwoo watches, filled with rage, as he realizes this figure is the vampire lord himself. The vampire lord informs the group that he's received a new quest and they all must support him. Instantly, everyone agrees. This makes the MC wonder if getting bitten by the vampire brainwashes people into blindly following him. The vampire lord then announces that he'll be hosting a party in Hwasong and instructs the others to invite as many people from the neighborhood as possible to enjoy themselves. He puts Manager Kim in charge of food and farming supplies. The MC then realizes with horror they're setting up human farms and slaughterhouses. Their real plan is to trick people by offering fake safety zones. Soon after, the MC receives an exclusive quest. He recalls getting a similar one when he witnessed his professor's death. This new quest is directly linked to the upcoming massacre party planned by the vampire lord. Suinwoo now has two choices: either stop the massacre or take advantage of it by using the corpses. Whichever path he picks will shape his destiny. Meanwhile, Hanho tries to wake him up, but the MC is still lost inside the vampire's memory. Hanho begins to cry, thinking something terrible has happened to Suinwoo after he took control of the vampire. When the MC finally snaps out of it, he dramatically places a hand on Hanho's head and jokingly asks who accused him of messing things up. Hanho gets a little frightened, but Suinwoo releases him and reminds him of the promise he made, to do whatever he's told. Then he smiles and says he wants Hanho to join him on a quest. Meanwhile, the vampire lord is irritated that the main character killed his vampire manager, even after receiving a portion of the vampire lord's power. Madame Yang, feeling nervous, asks whether Suinwoo might ruin his plans, but the vampire lord brushes it off, saying that Suinwoo's weak skeletons aren't a threat. After the upcoming grand feast, he plans to personally track Suinwoo down and eliminate him using a curse. Outside the factory, everyone is busy collecting daggers and other weapons left behind by the vampires. Hanho asks the MC if it's really okay for them to be doing this. Sue questions what he means, and Jisoo reminds him about what the MC told them earlier, how a massive massacre is about to take place in Hwasong Fortress. She asks if they should focus on stopping the vampires now. At the same time, Hanho urgently tells the MC something big is happening online. Apparently, the vampires are trying to lure players by promising them safety and free access to their camp. A post by someone called Manager goo seems designed to bait survivors. Hanho considers putting up a warning post, but the MC stops him. He explains that there's no guarantee their warning would stop people who are desperate for even a sliver of hope. Plus, if the vampires are forced to change their strategy, he'll lose the advantage he has from knowing their current plan. Since they can't do anything to stop the vampires just yet, he says they should focus on finishing their preparations instead. He then asks Jisoo if she found anything useful. She says yes. She discovered some helpful potions in Vampire Manager Kim's warehouse. Hanho finds a wireless charging battery, which they use to recharge their phones. Jisoo also comes across a white potion labeled Treatment, which cures infections. Suinwoo immediately uses it on Taesong's friend, Eugene, partially restoring her back to normal. Taesong and his friends gratefully thank him. The MC understands how hard things have been for the girl, and although the potion didn't fully heal her, it still worked well. He then turns to Taesong and warns him to watch over his friend carefully in case the vampire lord tries to possess her again. If that happens, he says he'll have no choice but to kill her. But with a determined look, Taesong tells him that won't happen. The MC looks confused for a moment, wondering if Taesong meant they would try to stop him if he ever attacked their friend. Even though the group had a criminal background, they didn't seem like bad people, so the MC lets them go. Still, he warns that he might need their help again later. Next, Suinwoo asks Hanho's father, Mr. Lee, to use his skill to create a safe zone around the factory. Inside this space, recovery speed increases significantly, and Mr. Lee has complete control over the area. Everyone inside feels much better as their wounds begin healing. Since Hanho's mom has a chef class, she's able to cook food that gives everyone buffs. Jisoo watches the players and notes that they're finally starting to adapt to the situation. Suinwoo asks her if she also received an exclusive quest, but she looks confused and says she didn't. It turns out he's the only one with an exclusive quest. He tells Jisoo she doesn't have to come along, but she says she wants to. When he asks if it's because of her sense of justice, she replies no. She explains that she can't keep running from the monsters forever. Sooner or later, it'll get her. That's why she wants to fight, to survive. As they speak, a notification pops up announcing that all survivors have now entered Chapter 1 of the game. The admin congratulates everyone who made it this far, acknowledges the many who've died, and explains that those who couldn't adapt have now turned into werbeasts. From here on out, the real trials begin. Players will need to fight not just monsters, but also other humans. Only the bold will survive. The message includes 4 important warnings. 1. The event will last for 7 days, and no one can leave the Suwon and Weizong fortress areas during that time point. 2. Players will earn double the gold. 3. Any player who defeats a werbeast may receive a random combo card. 4. A boss monster will appear in each region, offering powerful items as rewards. These items won't be available in any shop. Suinwoo looks at the screen and realizes that they can no longer travel to other regions. Jisoo stands nearby with a firm expression and tells them they need to stay and fight instead of continuing to run. Meanwhile, Hanho is clearly frustrated. He feels like Suinwoo is dragging him into a dangerous quest against his will. But Suinwoo reminds him that Jisoo has been with them since the beginning, even though she's more than capable of surviving on her own. In contrast, Hanho wouldn't last a day out there alone. Trying to shift the conversation, Hanho brings up that his recent post on the community forum is getting attention. There's a mix of responses, but one in particular stands out. It's from the prosecutor of Yongdongdongpo. This person has used a level 3 pioneer skill to build a secure base and even formed a guild called Independence. The guild's main focus is group survival, and they're planning to create a proper safe zone for survivors. Suinwoo doesn't believe this guy is trying to recruit him into the guild. Instead, he thinks the goal of that comment was to show others that they're not acting selfishly or with bad intentions. Hanho finds it hard to believe that someone could think so far ahead. But Suinwoo points out that more ambitious people are finally starting to step forward. Hanho then asks where they're heading. Suinwoo replies that they're going to level up and asks about Hanho's current level. Hanho admits he's only at level 5, which Suinwoo finds disappointingly low. Right then, Kyongsa stops the car and tells them they've arrived. As everyone steps out, Hanho asks if this is really where Suinwoo plans to take them. Suinwoo confirms it and declares the area as their new hunting ground. The place is crawling with monsters hiding behind wrecked cars and debris. Suddenly, a massive flaming rock hurtles toward them. They narrowly avoid it by ducking behind vehicles. These small monsters can use magic, but they're no match for Suinwoo's skeleton army. With Jisoo and the skeletons, they manage to wipe out the creatures. Suinwoo explains that these monsters are called kobolds. The mission here is twofold: help Hanho level up and possibly find new minions to add to his forces. His best option is to locate people who've been turned into monsters, since they would significantly boost his power. Sadly, the kobolds are too weak to be of any use as minions. He already has werewolves in his ranks that can easily take down several low-level vampires. Just then, Jisoo calls out to him and points toward a grocery store. The parking lot is filled with corpses, which reminds her of their college campus during the early days of chaos. Suinwoo guesses this might have been the site of one of the tutorial events. She then asks if he thinks any survivors might still be inside. Suinwoo tells her that crowded places tend to attract more monsters, so the chances of survivors are slim. Hearing this, Kyongsu suggests that rural locations or small villages like Jeju Island might be safer due to having fewer people. That makes Jisoo feel a bit better. Her family lives on Jeju. She catches Suinwoo looking at her and tells him there's no need to worry. She never really expected to meet her family again anyway. Besides, they're all influential and probably doing fine. Suinwoo picks up on the complicated tone in her voice and realizes she must have a strained relationship with her family. So, he chooses not to ask any more about it. As they enter a mart, the entrance is suddenly sealed by magic, turning the place into a large-scale dungeon known as the Sorcerer's Fortress. The only way to escape is by defeating the dungeon boss. Out of nowhere, a giant magic circle appears beneath them, teleporting everyone to different locations. Hanho ends up falling from the ceiling right into a group of kobolds who start laughing at the sight of a weak human alone. At first, Hanho thinks he can take them, but the moment he realizes he's completely alone, panic sets in. His survival chances drop from half a day to barely 30 seconds. The kobolds charge at him, but by accident, he manages to kill one of them. As they angrily swarm him, he starts to think it's over, until he notices he's not taking any damage. That's when he remembers his priest class has a passive ability that protects him for 10 seconds after each kill. The kobolds start getting confused, noticing their attacks aren't working. Hanho, still visibly terrified, gets up and asks them if they really just called him weak. Meanwhile, Kyongsu and Jisoo are trying to regroup with the others. As they turn a corner and notice some blood, they discover Hanho standing over a pile of dead kobolds. Jisoo is in disbelief, but Hanho proudly claims that he's finally unlocked his hidden potential. With the trio now reunited, they decide there's no need to worry about Suinwoo. They trust that he can handle the monsters on his own. As expected, the MC and his army of minions are busy wiping out kobolds with ease. He clears them out effortlessly, but still feels a bit concerned about his friend. While searching for an exit, he comes across a badly injured survivor. The man looks like he's on the brink of death, and it doesn't seem like potions will be much help. Barely lifting a finger, the survivor points toward a box. Suinwoo picks it up and asks if it contains a potion. When he opens it, he finds a strange egg inside. According to the item description, a creature will hatch from the egg that could change his fate. With his last breath, the survivor explains that the dungeon boss holds the token required to claim this egg. It originally belonged to him, but the boss managed to steal the token. Suinwoo is shocked to realize the man is actually a powerful 5-star dragon knight. He figures the guy must have gotten lost in the dungeon while searching for the mart, only to have all his tokens stolen by the boss. It seems the knight's class had potential that only unlocked later, but sadly, he never made it that far. Although the description only refers to it as a mysterious egg, Suinwoo instantly recognizes it as a dragon egg. He assumes the knight entrusted him with it, so he could finish what the man couldn't. While Suinwoo is still standing there, more kobolds try to attack, but his minions easily take them out. Now determined to retrieve the token and avenge the fallen knight, he continues pressing forward. Despite being cut down repeatedly, the kobolds keep charging like mindless drones, and Suinwoo finds it odd. Suddenly, an explosion goes off nearby, and he sees a kobold sorcerer. Even though it looks terrifying, one of his minions takes it down instantly, along with the rest. After leveling up, Suinwoo chooses the skill option to increase his maximum number of minions, but instead he gains a new skill called Corpse Explosion, which costs 10 mana to blow up a dead body. Right away, he gets to test the skill as more enemies approach. He tells his minions to stand back and detonates one of the corpses, causing a huge explosion. The kobolds outside hear it and start feeling uneasy. Then suddenly, Raiti bursts out through the door and wipes them out. Suin-Woo praises him, and Raiti beams with happiness. Suin-Woo finally encounters the dungeon boss, who's surrounded by massive roots. The boss turns out to be a high-level cobalt sorcerer protected by a powerful force field that can only be broken by destroying 3 separate cores hidden around the dungeon. According to the system, this boss can't be harmed by regular attacks. Seeing the shield, Suin-Woo immediately understands why the boss has just been chilling while its guards were out fighting. It had no need to join the battle directly. Suddenly, the boss unleashes a deadly spell that will kill anyone under level 10 in 1 hour. Suin-Woo panics. Everyone in his group is below level 10. Now, he realizes the truth. The earlier Cobalt attacks were just a stalling tactic to buy time for the spell to activate. He sends his minions to attack the boss, but the shield makes them useless. Thinking on his feet, he orders his minions to stack dead Cobalt bodies around the boss, and then blows them up in a massive explosion. But when he returns to check, nothing. The boss remains unharmed. Now furious, the boss sacrifices some of its health to speed up the spell. Only 52 minutes remain. Suin-Woo starts to feel the pressure, realizing time is running out. With no other option, he focuses on finding and destroying the cores. Using memory fragments from revived Cobalt monsters, he discovers the locations of the cores. He destroys the first one pretty quickly, just 1 down, 2 to go. But only 19 minutes remain. He pushes forward, continuing to revive monsters and scan their memories. Eventually, he finds out where the next core is and rushes toward the first floor. On his way, he notices dead Cobalts lying around and wonders if Jisoo was behind it. A moment later, he gets a system alert. The second core has been destroyed. He guesses Jisoo saw the death spell notification too and acted. He then spots someone fighting nearby and assumes it's Jisoo. He yells out, telling them to go look for Hanho and Kyongsu. But to his surprise, it's actually Hanho himself, holding up a dead monster and grinning like a badass, saying Suin-Woo's the one who's late. Suin-Woo can't believe what he's seeing. It almost feels like a dream. Jisoo also arrives and confirms she destroyed one of the cores. But Suin-Woo is still fixated on how much Hanho has changed, now acting all heroic and serious. Still, there's no time to waste. With just 13 minutes left, they rush to the location of the final core. Cobalts are fiercely defending it. Suin-Woo knows they can't afford to waste time in battle, so he tells the group to ignore the enemies and focus on finding the last core. It doesn't take long. Jisoo finds it, and with only 10 minutes remaining, Suin-Woo assists Raiti in jumping over the mobs and smashing the final core. With the shield down, they now have 9 minutes to beat the boss. Suin-Woo is burning with rage and ready to take it down. When they confront the boss, Hanho returns to his usual self and casually suggests it should be easier now since Suin-Woo can blow up corpses. But Suin-Woo reminds him that the boss has already seen that trick. It might be prepared for it. Hanho, still confident, suggests they blow up the entire building instead, which sparks an idea. Without wasting a second, Suin-Woo orders everyone to regroup and head to the boss room. Time is running out fast. They arrive just in time, and one of Suin-Woo's Cobalt sorcerer minions casts a fireball that disrupts the instant death spell. Suin-Woo glares at the boss, daring it to throw something new at them. Enraged, the boss transforms into a fallen tree spirit, roars, and launches a brutal attack. It tears through Suin-Woo's minions like paper, then swings at the group, who barely dodge the hit. Jisoo uses her fire sword to burn a branch, but it regenerates almost instantly. Suin-Woo tells her to fall back and instructs his werewolf minion to hurl dead Cobalts at the boss. He blows them up near the boss's face. Through the smoke, Suin-Woo hopes the explosion was enough, but nope. The boss regenerates again. Then, a fireball from another Cobalt sorcerer hits it from behind. The group piles on with fire attacks, but the boss keeps healing. Finally, a system message pops up. The boss has drained all its mana and will now burn through its HP. Suin-Woo grins. He's been secretly using the Devil's Bloodstone to siphon its mana the whole time. But even without mana, the boss keeps attacking. Suin-Woo yells for everyone to retreat. The weakened boss tries to follow, but collapses. Before exiting, Suin-Woo glances back. He'd been stacking dead Cobalt bodies on the first floor for this moment. Once everyone is safe, he detonates the pile. With no mana left to regenerate, the boss dies. For slaying the fallen tree spirit, Suin-Woo earns 12,140 gold and reaches level 10. The system rewards him with a roulette ticket for being the 69th person to hit level 10. His max minion limit increases by 5, and he unlocks a new skill called Death Response, which lets him summon 10 zombies for 10 minutes without affecting his current count. He now controls up to 25 undead. On top of that, he holds the token of the Dragon Knight. When he raises his sword, he feels ready to take on the Vampire Lord. That Dragon Knight's token is actually a masterless sword that boosts his strength by 6. Unfortunately, he can't hatch the dragon egg yet since he's not a dragon tamer. The system tells him it'll take 5,000 days to hatch, or he can shorten the time by killing powerful monsters with the sword. He does the math, 13 years to wait. Jisoo tells him it's probably a penalty for not having the right class. Suinwoo says he'll just prove himself to the sword by slaying monsters. At least the sword boosts his strength, so he's fine with it. Then Hanho interrupts, saying his phone is ringing. It's a message from Taesong, who was sent to Haegung Square to spy on the vampires. Taesong reports that many people are gathered, but no vampires have shown up yet. Suinwoo is relieved he's still okay. Earlier, he'd told Taesong to blend in with the other survivors and secretly observe the vampires, asking him to send a private message if anything major happened. Taesong had accepted the job, happily, since he was already familiar with vampires. Back in the present, one of Suinwoo's orc skeletons informs him that 2 werewolves were found dead. He wonders if the tree spirit was behind it. He revives them and adds them to his army. With that, he now has 5 werewolves and 15 total minions. Now fully equipped and stronger than ever, Suinwoo sets his sights on Hang, ready to eliminate the vampire threat once and for all. Meanwhile, the survivors grow restless because the people who invited them are still nowhere in sight. From inside a nearby building, a group of vampires watches them, waiting for the perfect moment to start killing the survivors. The vampire master enters the room and tells his subordinates to get ready. One of them asks if they're going to feast on the survivors, but the master just smirks and explains that their real target is the group who attacked the factory. The other vampires look confused, thinking they were supposed to party first, but the master tells them the plan has changed. Since their target is nearby, he wants them dead before he can interfere with their plans. He adds that this order came directly from the Vampire Lord, so they should go all out. Taesong spots the vampires heading out and quickly informs the MC through his phone. The vampires make their way to the elementary school, tracking the MC's location thanks to the curse placed on him. They mock him for letting his guard down. Along the way, they stumble upon the corpse of a dire wolf. The claw marks tell them it was likely killed by one of his werewolf minions. Soon after, they notice a trail of blood and decide to follow it. The vampire master wonders how their area manager could have lost to someone like this. They call the MC an idiot for not realizing that blood attracts monsters. One vampire points out that the trail leads to the auditorium. Once they confirm the MC's location, the vampire lord orders every vampire to kill him immediately. They know he can control minions, but they still think they can overpower him. The vampire master expects him to have 5 werewolf skeletons, and since he serves directly under the vampire lord, he's confident he can handle 2 by himself. With their numbers, he's certain they can win. He leads the group inside and spots the MC with his minions. Seeing that he has only a few skeletons makes them even more confident, so they charge after him. The MC runs, luring them into a dead end. He stops and declares that this will be their final resting place. The vampires grow uneasy, sensing something is wrong. He points out that they've been counting his skeletons but don't know all of his abilities. One vampire mocks him, asking if he has a few more skeletons hidden nearby. Sunwoo grins and says he doesn't just control a pile of bones. He commands an entire army. With that, he summons the rest of his minions from the void and uses death response to call forth zombies. The vampires are shocked at the sight. Sunwoo then sits back and lets his minions do the killing. Raiti boosts the skeleton's power, and the zombies start ripping through the vampires. The enemies are overwhelmed by the sheer number of debuffs affecting them. Sunwoo shows them what happens when you challenge an undead army. A female vampire charges at him, but is hit by the Cobalt Sorcerer's fireballs before Raiti finishes her off. Sunwoo earns 2,000 gold from the kill. Soon, all the vampires are dead except for the Vampire Master, who proves to be much tougher. He tears through the skeletons and zombies, though 2 zombies manage to bite him. He easily shakes one off and then leaps toward the MC, aiming to kill him. The MC, however, stays calm and smiles, telling him he should take a closer look before attacking. Hearing this, the Vampire Master starts to panic and demands to know what he means. 2 hours earlier, while everyone was gathered outside the school building, the MC gave precise instructions to one of his minions. He tried detonating his orc skeleton, but it failed. Only then did he realize the reason. It was a skeleton, not a corpse, so the skill didn't work on it. Switching tactics, he used his death response skill to summon a horde of zombies and wondered if they could explode since they were just corpses. He soon figured out that moving zombies counted as summon minions, but once they stopped, they were considered nothing more than corpses. Taking advantage of this, he detonated one of the remaining zombies, inflicting massive damage on the vampire master. As the enemy dropped to the ground in pain, one of the MC's werewolves bit his leg clean off. The vampire master asked Sunwoo if he really believed he could defeat their boss, but the MC finished him off with his nameless sword, earning 20,000 gold. He also reduced the egg hatching time to 4,949 days. Reviving all the vampire corpses, he now commanded over 5 vampire skeletons, which granted him a synergy bonus, 5% bleed effect on all their attacks, plus a berserk mode before death that boosted their stats by 10%. Feeling confident in his strengthened army, the MC was ready for whatever came next. Just then, Jisoo messaged him saying the vampires were on the move. In the safe zone, the guards started behaving suspiciously, demanding everyone hand over their weapons before entering. The MC suspected that the vampire lord had sensed the deaths of his royal guards and was now in a hurry to find him. Since all the vampire guards in the survivor camp were under his control, tensions rose further when an old player spotted werewolves impaled on a rooftop. The crowd whispered in awe, wondering who was strong enough to do such a thing. It was nearly Jisoo and Hanho's turn for the weapon check, when Jisoo noticed one of the guards explaining that weapons were being confiscated for the safety of other players. He claimed they had already killed 4 werewolves, so there was no need for them to keep their weapons. Disgusted by humans siding with vampires, Jisoo thought they were only making it easier for the vampires to kill people. Just then, Taesong quietly approached and told her he had hidden her twin swords as planned, thanks to their friend Yong Shik, a 2-star swordsman. Hanho asked if he had also prepared what he'd requested earlier, and Taesong confirmed it. After clearing the check, they joined the other players. Soon after, the vampire lord appeared with his masked minions, clearly furious about the MC. Hanho instantly recognized him and guessed the masks were to hide their fangs. The group had hidden the sword in a safe place. Now, they just had to wait for the MC to show up. As the vampire lord began speaking, masked vampires surrounded the crowd. He proclaimed humanity's downfall was inevitable due to its weakness. Pulling down his mask, he told them they were destined to be sacrificed to usher in the next stage of evolution. Fear spread through the survivors as vampires attacked. Some tried to flee, but electric fences blocked every exit. It was a trap. The vampire lord smirked at the sight of everyone struggling. In the chaos, Jisoo tried leading survivors to safety, but the vampire lord noticed the swords in her hands and wondered how she had a weapon. At that moment, Kyongsu crashed a school bus into the fence, breaking the electric barrier and giving everyone a chance to escape. Jisoo and Hanho led survivors away, while the vampire lord turned to face the MC, who had just stepped off the bus. The MC smirked and mockingly called him the Mosquito King before asking the vampires why they weren't enjoying themselves. The vampire lord laughed, saying the MC was right on time and promising they'd have plenty of fun. He then addressed Madame Yang, saying their party hadn't started well, to which she replied they were missing the main course and ordered her vampires to surround the fleeing survivors. The vampire lord asked if the MC planned to save them, but Sunwoo said his teammates could handle the vampire girl. Amused, the lord said that under different circumstances, he might have hired the MC to work for him, but Sunwoo replied he didn't need that. He already had friends. Suddenly, a werewolf skeleton leapt out of the bus and attacked the vampire king. He scoffed, asking if the MC really thought it could kill him. But when he engaged it, he realized it was loaded with goblin corpses, a trap. The MC detonated it, triggering a massive explosion. The vampires panicked, seeing their boss on the ground, though they assured themselves he wouldn't be beaten so easily. They chased the MC into the bus, only to find it filled with monster corpses. Sunwoo slipped out through a hole and detonated the bus, wiping out a huge number of vampires. Meanwhile, Madame Yang was out hunting survivors alongside some human collaborators. The humans with her heard the explosion and began wondering if something might have happened to the vampire lord. She brushed off their concerns, insisting that he was far too powerful to be killed by the MC, and told them to focus on tracking down survivors instead. But when she glanced back, she saw both of them lying dead on the ground. A chilling presence crept up behind her, and she barely managed to dodge an attack from Jisoo. Locking eyes with the vampire girl, Madame Yang's expression burned with determination as she prepared to fight her alone. At the same time, Hanho and Taesong managed to guide the survivors to a safe spot, everything going smoothly thanks to Sunwa's plan. Hanho still kept his daggers ready, just in case, though they hoped they wouldn't have to use them. Unfortunately, a vampire suddenly appeared from behind, placed there by the vampire lord to guard the perimeter. Mocking them for getting caught, the vampire smugly asked if they'd help him level up. Taesong rushed in to fight, thinking this vampire looked weaker than the others, but Hanho tried in vain to stop him. The vampire dodged Taesong's attacks and almost sank his teeth into his neck, but Hanho intervened at the last second, hurling his daggers. The vampire leapt into the air to dodge a punch from Taesong, but Hanho quickly threw more daggers, striking the vampire's face and knocking him to the ground. Hanho was stunned. He had just beaten a vampire, but when he realized he hadn't received any gold yet, he knew it wasn't over. The furious vampire, still alive, stood up and cursed them for scarring his beautiful face. Meanwhile, the MC had already cleared out the weaker vampires with the earlier explosion, but he knew the real threat was still lurking. Suddenly, the vampire lord leapt onto the bus, this time sporting wings, looking like he'd unlocked some premium skin. The MC quickly realized this wasn't going to be an easy kill. He summoned undead minions from the void, but as the vampire lord landed in the middle of his orc skeletons, he smashed through them with ease. Knowing they wouldn't hold him for long, Sun Wu called 4 zombies from the ground. The vampire lord seemed mildly surprised, but ultimately unconcerned, sure they posed no real threat. When he killed one, the MC tried to detonate the corpse, but the vampire lord was ready, using his blood fly skill to create a high-pressure mist of blood. While the skill wasn't especially powerful, it was enough to block the detonation. Switching tactics, the MC sent his werewolves forward, activating the Cerberus synergy to boost their strength against a single target. Still, the vampire lord sliced through 3 of them with a single strike. Realizing close combat was hopeless, the MC ordered his minions to attack with spears instead. The vampire lord dodged effortlessly, saying he found the fight boring and claiming that this was the limit of unevolved humans. Sun Wu shot back, asking if he really considered monsters like himself evolved. Proudly, the vampire lord said it was a massive improvement over humanity, arguing that the strong were always meant to rule the weak. That's how history had always worked. Modern society, he complained, had treated him like an outcast because he was a serial killer, but the apocalypse had given him his chance. He believed he was chosen, just like others, to lead the world into its next stage of evolution. Sun Wu clutched his head, realizing this whole plan was just a load of crap. He mocked the vampire lord, asking if he still believed in that nonsense when no one had taken it seriously in 100 years. The vampire lord kept ranting about being the future of evolution until Madame Yang's voice cut through, calling for help. She couldn't believe she was losing to a human. After all, she believed herself superior. Yet, throughout their entire fight, she hadn't landed a single hit on Jisoo. Jisoo pointed out that it was because Madame Yang had never trained. Despite her raw strength, her attacks were predictable and lacked coordination. Spending all her time hanging around the vampire lord and collecting easy experience had left her sloppy. With a decisive move, Jisoo delivered a powerful double slash, taking Madame Yang down for good, then thanked her for bringing back her self-confidence. Meanwhile, things aren't going smoothly for Hanho and Taesong. A vampire offers them a deal. Join him, and in this unfair world, they'd have a better chance at survival under the protection of the vampire lord. He explains that he and his comrades were once just regular students like them, but with the world now crawling with monsters, they had no other choice but to side with someone strong and live off their power. He repeats his offer, asking again if they want to join. Hanho admits that the vampire is right, which makes Taesong think he's about to accept the deal. But then Hanho adds that the side he's chosen is far stronger group than the vampires. Suddenly, a motorbike rider appears behind the vampire, distracting him for just a moment. Seizing the opportunity, Hanho throws a dagger. The vampire dodges, and the blade hits the rider in the chest, but he's unharmed because there's a goblin sitting in front of him. Turns out, this was Hanho's real plan all along. His actual target was the goblin. Hanho transforms into his Gigachad form, standing tall and confident before the vampire. The vampire starts trembling at the sight and attacks with full force, but it has no effect. it feels like hitting a wall of steel. Hanho towers over him and unleashes rapid stabs with his high-speed/skill. Taesong and Kyongsu join in, attacking together. The vampire tries to strike Taesong, but Hanho blocks with his own body, explaining that he's been boosting his agility the whole time, so the vampire has no chance to escape. Hanho deliberately acts as a punching bag while the other two work to finish the vampire off. The vampire realizes that while their individual strikes aren't enough, their combined attacks can actually take him down, and with Hanho as a fast-moving tank protecting them, it's even worse for him. But Hanho begins to feel his power draining, and the vampire quickly figures out that his skill must have a time limit. Just then, a goblin is thrown at Hanho, which he kills instantly, reactivating his skill. One teammate is assigned to keep tossing goblins from a safe distance. Hanho taunts the vampire, saying he can keep powering up endlessly since they have plenty of goblins ready. He also reminds him of his earlier words about surviving by sticking with the strongest, telling him that's completely wrong. True survival comes from friendship with people you can trust. In a moment that's both absurd and epic, Hanho declares they survive with love and peace, striking a weird pose. The vampire trembles, claiming he's losing only because they're ganging up on him, which, honestly, isn't wrong. Meanwhile, the vampire lord watches in fury as his elite fighters die one by one. Sunwoo tells him that it's his turn now and that he already knows all of his weaknesses. First, the vampire lord can't use weapons, a penalty for their class, which he discovered after controlling some vampires himself. Second, he has low defense but high regeneration, and his movements are large and inefficient. Third, he has no mana, meaning he must rely on blood for his abilities. Sunwoo reveals that he's been using Devil's Bloodstone to drain the vampire lord's health with each hit. His final weakness? He talks too much. Sunwoo points out that if he were in his position, he wouldn't waste time talking and would have gone straight for the Necromancer. Enraged, the vampire lord activates a blood field and charges, but Raiti intercepts, parrying the strike. Raiti then hurls a bottle of slime liquid into his face, the acid melting his skin and blurring his vision. Low on blood and too weak to regenerate, the vampire lord becomes vulnerable. The MC orders his minions to finish him. Still dangerous but visibly weakened, the vampire lord tries to head for some werewolves hung as trophies on a nearby building. He makes it to the rooftop, only to be ambushed by a werewolf minion that stabs him from above. Sunwoo mocks him, revealing that he'd been getting his werewolf minions from that very building. Badly wounded, the vampire lord crashes to the ground. Sunwoo decides to end it with style. His minions throw the vampire lord into a room piled with monster corpses, and then he detonates the building, finally killing him. For killing a special player, Sunwoo earns 10,000 gold, plus 30,000 gold and a C-rank item ticket for completing the No Country for Wicked Men quest. His destiny shifts, granting him an exclusive skill. When his group arrives, they celebrate the victory together. Sunwoo looks at them and smiles, thinking that even if the world is ending, he's going to stick with them. The next morning, everyone is praising him, and some people mention they've been rescued by the Sunwoo group before. Hanho says that many have started recognizing them now. Their celebration is cut short when a regiment of soldiers, led by Sergeant Kim, arrives. Kim says he saw the epic battle from afar and got curious about what happened. Sunwoo greets him with a smile, glad to see him doing well, and asks why he's here. The sergeant explains they had been monitoring a group claiming to be creating safe zones for survivors, but they never expected the situation to spiral into such chaos. The MC glances at them, relieved they didn't interfere with the vampires, since they don't seem very strong anyway. Kim then says someone wants to meet him. Confused, the MC asks who, and Kim smiles, telling him that the Korean army is still alive and well. Somewhere else, an army officer with 4 stars on his hat stares out the window. Later that night, the MC stands in an office, looking at his own profile. He's currently level 10 with about $300,000 in gold, half of which came from his recent battle. He realizes that running around hunting monsters isn't as efficient as completing quests. His skill has also leveled up, letting him craft bone armor in addition to bone weapons. As he creates the armor, it wraps snugly around his body, leaving little room for attacks while still allowing good movement. He decides to equip all his minions with it for better durability. The quest also rewarded him with a heroic rank crossbow that can fire arrows without reloading, perfect for someone who usually fights from the backline. Feeling stronger with these upgrades, He believes he can beat anyone. But suddenly, he feels heat behind him. Turning, he sees his old home engulfed in flames, with his parents calling for help. They plead for him to save them, now that he's strong. Sun Woo tries summoning his minion, only to realize he's still just a powerless kid. Helpless, he watches his parents burn, fear taking over, and runs away. It's a memory from his past, a reminder that he's still that same weak kid. The nightmare wakes him, and Han-ho, seeing him stir, mentions he's been asleep all day. He points to the door, saying Sergeant Kim is back with the soldiers from yesterday. When they had asked him to go with them to their base, he'd refused, telling them that if someone wanted to meet him, they could come to him. He'd been too tired to bother back then. Now, he tells Han-ho to keep them waiting outside for a bit, though his mind is still on the dream. He's determined to get stronger, so he'll never have to leave anyone behind again. As Han-ho tries to stall them, a lieutenant pushes past him and enters. Introducing himself as Lieutenant Major Taeyang Park, he asks if the MC is the necromancer. Sergeant Kim is with him as well. The major sits and says he'll get straight to the point, explaining they've been monitoring a suspicious group in Weizong and asking if the MC was the one who took them out. He wants details and also wonders if the MC would join them for future missions. The MC says he can explain how he defeated the guy, but doesn't see how he'd be useful to them. Taeyang points at him, saying they want him in the army. The MC is instantly annoyed. Joining the army is the last thing he wants. He asks why he should bother, and the major starts rambling about how the army and government could restore order with his help. Basically, they want him to do everything because they've been useless in this apocalypse. Taeyang mentions a man known as the prosecutor of Yongdongpo, who's forming some renegade group. This man saved citizens, created Korea's first guild, and established safety zones. He even defeated a boss monster in his area. The MC thinks that's impressive, but Taeyang clearly dislikes the man for rejecting the government and refusing to side with the army. The MC coldly disagrees, saying they have no right to label anyone as a renegade. The army and government failed to protect people in this crisis, forcing everyone to adapt and survive on their own. He says he'd rather be a mercenary than join them. The lieutenant, furious, grabs him by the collar, but the MC smacks his hand away and stands to leave. The major warns he'll regret it, claiming he won't survive alone. Sun Woo looks back, Rai-T by his side, and says he prefers being alone, despite literally having an army of his own.